Chapter 830. Whether a movie can sell well at the box office or not, there are many factors that affect it. In addition to its own quality, audience preferences, and even the timing of its release are very important. Publicity and distribution are also indispensable and cannot be generalized. Some movies cost only a few million and finally got a box office of more than 100 million, and some invested hundreds of millions and ended up in a mess. There is no fixed model that can be applied to box office results. Therefore, in the movie market, box office plunges from time to time, and it is not worth making a fuss about. But the problem with Young Jong-ho is that the previous publicity was so grand that the money spent was almost as much as the production cost of the film. After the premiere, the reviews were good. The box office exceeded 100 million on the first day, and it earned 230 million in 2 days. It should have been a hit film. So how could it be directly cut in half overnight? In fact, the truth is very easy to find, and that is the audience's reputation. Today is the age of the internet, and the speed at which hundreds of millions of netizens accept information is extremely fast, and the main audience in the movie market overlaps with netizens very high. So, it is easy to be affected by online public opinion. Of course, the film producers and distributors are well aware of the role of online public opinion. At least 50% of the publicity budget is aimed at online media in order to firmly grasp the direction of public opinion on the internet. However, now the vast number of netizens are no longer so easy to fool. After more than 10 years of indiscriminate bombardment of all kinds of information, they have their own trusted source channels to obtain information on the internet, and have also mastered a lot of ability to distinguish internet water army. They believe in their own judgment rather than blindly follow other people's opinions. It is simply impossible to control the thoughts of hundreds of millions of netizens. 2 days after Young Jong-ho was released, related movie reviews and viewing experiences appeared in blogs, forums, and QQ groups in large numbers, deeply affecting those potential audiences. And the word of mouth of Young Jong-ho festered very quickly on the internet. The situation on the blog was not bad, but in many forums like Shanghai Community Film and Television Version, as well as many QQ groups, this martial arts movie was criticized to pieces. A large number of people who have watched the movie shouted that they were fooled, thinking that they spent money to watch a bad movie. Many people were angry that they were deceived by the promotional video. It was like going to meet with a girlfriend of many years, only to see the other party's bare face. The complaints about the plot of the movie were even more overwhelming, and everyone said that their IQ had been insulted. The movie industry was getting more and more developed. Every year, a large number of new movies were released, and the domestic audience had seen more and more blockbusters, so there was a higher demand and viewing standard for movies. More than a decade ago, any Hollywood blockbuster could sweep the domestic market. Today, it no longer exists. The box office of the homogenized blockbusters is getting more and more dismal. Only the real premium products can win people's love and pursuit. As a new generation in the industry, although Wanhao Pictures had a strong background and great ambition, their judgment of the domestic film market was obviously still a few years ago. They thought that they would be successful by relying on high cost, many stars, special effects, and enhanced publicity. In the end, they were slapped hard in the face by reality. The market was cruel. On the 8th of July, Young Pugilistic World's box office continued to plummet, dropping to 35 million. It could be considered a new record. Of course, it was definitely not a glorious record that was worth bragging about. If the trend continued to fall, it would be impossible for Wanhao Pictures to recoup their capital because the production cost of Young Pugilistic World and the promotion cost nearly 300 million. Even if they broke even, they would need at least 600 million in the box office. Getting 320 million in 4 days, it shouldn't be a problem to exceed 600 million. However, the drop was too tragic to the extent that it made people feel hopeless. There were also people in the industry that if Young Pugilistic World wanted to recoup their capital, there was too much pressure on the cinema chains. However, they could recoup their capital or even make a profit through the sale of the copyrights. However, a few days ago, these people in the industry thought that Young Pugilistic World's box office wouldn't have much pressure to exceed $1 billion. It could even reach $2 billion. What was worse was that because the box office of Young Pugilistic Worlds dropped too quickly, the cinema chains only reacted on the 9th and greatly reduced the number of screenings. This made things worse for Wanhao Pictures. Of course, Wanhao Pictures wasn't willing to give up. On one hand, they continued to promote. On the other hand, they used their connections to ask for help from the cinema chains, hoping to maintain a relatively high number of screenings. However, the market was cruel and merciless. As a new force in the industry, Wanhao Pictures had many more enemies than friends. If there was a chance to hit them when they were down, they definitely wouldn't mind giving it a push. The decrease in the number of screenings for Young Pugilistic World was about the same as the drop in the box office on the 6th and 7th. It was completely powerless and couldn't even struggle on its deathbed. Not only that, the dismal box office and the bad reputation made the peripherals of Young Pugilistic World almost unable to be sold. Wanhao Pictures' investment in this area was all for naught. On the 12th of July, Young Pugilistic World had a cumulative box office of $367 million in 7 days. The number of screenings dropped to less than 10%. It was destined to lose everything. This also taught Wanhao Pictures, this rich second generation, a good lesson. Actually, it wasn't only Wanhao Pictures that was affected. The industry was also greatly shaken. Through the example of Young Pugilistic World's box office, many people realized the cruelty of the market. At the same time, they started to have doubts about films and TV works with wuxia themes. Some film companies originally planned to follow the trend of shooting wuxia dramas, but they all stopped their plans. The truth proved that their decision was correct. The new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, which was officially released on the 12th, only had a box office of $27 million on the first day. This made the producer, Dottie Pictures, want to cry but have no tears. The worst was Wanderer of the Pugilistic World, which was released on the 15th. Dragged down by the market, the box office on the first day was actually less than $10 million. It was a complete loss. All of a sudden, the reputation of wuxia movies plummeted. Even the value of the previously sought-after martial arts IP fell. The novel rights that were previously priced at millions were now unsold, even after a discount. The situation of chasing up and down did not only occur in the stock market. On the 17th, the first Hollywood blockbuster during the summer vacation, the animated masterpiece Dreamflyer, produced by Disney, was released. The number of screenings on the first day was more than 50%, which also gave the 3 domestic wuxia movies the final blow. A glorious start, but a dismal ending. This inevitably made people doubt the smiling, proud Wanderer, which would be released during the National Day period. Could the latter still support the sky of wuxia movies? Chapter 831. Disney's animated blockbusters had dominated the domestic summer period for a long time, but in recent years, they have been surpassed by domestic films. However, as one of the top film giants in Hollywood, no one would doubt the quality and box office of Dreamflyer. Young Jung-hoo, The 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Vagabond were all released before Dreamflyer, just to take advantage of the time difference and compete for the box office market first. In the end, who would have thought that the 3 popular martial arts movies would end up in such a miserable state? They didn't even have the chance to kill each other before they were crushed by the Disney movies that came later. On the 20th, the box office of Young Jung-hoo barely exceeded $400 million, and on the internet, there were more and more gossip about Young Jung-hoo buying the box office. At this point, Wanhao Pictures basically gave up on the follow-up publicity of this blockbuster because everyone knew that Young Jung-hoo was beyond its power. If they continued to spend money on publicity, it would be like throwing money into the water. Even so, The 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous was released for 8 days, and the box office was less than $50 million, which was a huge loss. Goulet, who had been jumping up and down on the internet some time ago, didn't even update his blog and even deleted many of his previous blog posts. The higher they held it, the higher they jumped, the harder they fell. As for Vagabond, the producers were about to jump off a building, and the investors even wanted to beg for food. In these three martial arts films, the audience's comments were uniformly bad, such as the same old, and the plot is too melodramatic could be found on the three films. Several film companies couldn't put their knives back into the sheath, and they accused each other of vicious competition, which made people very speechless. In the eyes of the people in the industry, the martial arts IP that had been hyped up a while ago was now completely ruined. Big bubbles had been burst, and they were basically declared dead. Such a dramatic scene made many people focus their attention on the initiator of the martial arts IP, the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, starring Liu Chen. The wuxia theme had failed. It had almost exhausted the market of this IP. Could the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, which had been shot and was in post-production, turn the tide in the National Day period and re-establish the banner of wuxia movies? There were not many people who were optimistic about the movie. Although The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was adapted from the most popular wuxia novel, and it had a big director and a big star in it, the box office was not optimistic because the audience was no longer interested in it. Perhaps the fame of Liu Chen, Chun Feier, Liu Gangsheng, and other big names could attract a lot of fans to buy tickets and enter the cinema. However, they would only be spending the fans, and there would not be much glory in breaking even. No one knew where the evil wind came from. While criticizing the three failures of Yang Jianghu, the media did not forget to step on the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, to prove their foresight. Chun Fei media remained silent on the media that was stirring up trouble. It gave people the feeling that no matter what others said, it had nothing to do with Chun Fei media. Some people couldn't help but feel restless because of this. Are you just going to keep silent? At the headquarters of Chun Fei media, Lok Shi, who had endured for more than half a month, finally couldn't stand it anymore. She ran to the special effects studio and found Liu Chen, who had been supervising the post-production. She pulled him aside and complained. Someone spread a rumor on the internet, saying that The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, will not be continued after this one, and that it is an unfinished work. Chun Fei Media had announced a long time ago that The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, would be divided into 3 films, and the 3 films would be shot consecutively and released separately from this year to next year. Such a rumor was not completely unreasonable. The martial arts films had been made to such an extent that the box office market was a big problem. Under such circumstances, if Chun Fei Media continued to invest in the production of the remaining 2 films, there was no doubt that it would be a great risk. After spending hundreds of millions, they would lose everything in the end. It would not only be a blow to Chun Fei Media, but also to Liu Chen. After all, he was the one who started the wuxia trend. If they were rational, the last 2 films should be suspended indefinitely until the market turned around. That was the safest and most rational choice, and also the most logical and reasonable choice. These people, Liu Chen shook his head and said, they just want to see us make a fool of ourselves. They hope that we will spend all the money on The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. It would be the best if we fail. As for the sinister intentions behind the rumor, Liu Chen was as clear as a blazing fire. He had already experienced the filth of some people. Being in this circle, he was no longer surprised by it. But they wanted to see Liu Chen make a fool of himself, and Liu Chen also wanted to see them make a fool of themselves. Liu Shi rolled her eyes at him and said, if we don't do anything soon, we will really become a joke. It's almost August now. Is the promotion of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, going to start? Because of the cancellation, although the budget and plan of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer had been made a long time ago, it had not been put into practice. It needed to be launched at the right time. The National Day would start on October 1st, and there were still 2 months until now. It was a bit long for the promotion cycle, but it was no problem to release the preview. Many Hollywood blockbusters would release the preview a year or more in advance and promote at the same time. Liu Chen thought for a while and said, let's wait until the influence of those movies is over. Liu Chen was a human, not a god. Although he did not have high hopes for Junior Pugilistic World and other competitors, the current situation was beyond his expectations. The reputation of the martial arts movies was ruined, and it would definitely have an impact on the smiling, the proud wanderer. So if they started the promotion now, the audience would not only not buy it, but might even have a rebellious mentality. She calmed down and felt that Lu Chen's concerns were reasonable. She said with hatred, "It's all because of those sh*t stirrers who hurt others without benefiting themselves. Such a good story was ruined by them." Lu Chen smiled, and his eyes fell on the computer screen on the workbench not far away. The latter's matching host was calculating a CG picture. True gold fears no fire. I have confidence in the smiling, the proud wanderer. There is nothing to worry about. Lu Chen said confidently, "It's not easy to follow the trend, not to mention that they didn't even follow the real trend. They deserve to shoot themselves in the foot. We should follow our own steps and don't be led by others. As for the public opinion, let's go our own way and let others talk." Chapter 832. After nearly 4 years, Lu Chen had become much more mature than he used to be. Now, he had completely integrated the memories of 3 lives from the dream world. After experiencing the ups and downs of the entertainment circle, he was no longer inferior to those real superstars in terms of breadth of mind and experience. If Lu Chen had the popularity of a superstar a year and a half ago, now he had the temperament of a superstar and stood at the peak of his life. Because of this, Lu Chen would not care about the gains and losses in front of him. As long as he did not involve the kind of scandal that could ruin his reputation, ordinary public opinion could not shake him at all. Then why should he take the initiative to get involved in these things? The final proof would always be the work. Lu Chen had not only invested a lot of money into this film, but he had also put a lot of effort into it. The first part of the filming was completed on time, and the second part of the production was even more important. How could he have the time and energy to argue with others? Of course, Lucy was not reconciled. With her temper, if others trampled on her, she should beat them back fiercely. She did not want to be looked down upon by others without saying a word. But on the other hand, her sister's support for Lu Chen was unconditional. Since Lu Chen decided to ignore it, she also gave up several publicity counterattack plans that she had thought of. She concentrated on managing and rectifying the internal affairs of Chenfei Media, and did not let the outside public opinion affect the mood of the company's employees. In Chenfei Media's uncooperative attitude of "you do your own thing, I do my own thing," made the media who intended to stir up trouble unable to do anything, like a mouse pulling a tortoise. After a while, they naturally gave up. In today's society, the speed of information transmission was too fast. Every day, new news emerged one after another. It was not an earth-shattering event, so once the heat passed, it naturally became silent. The sad ones were Wanhao Pictures, Land Pictures, and Crown Pictures. The 3 of them were big players in the industry, and the latter 2 were even veteran film companies. This time, they failed miserably. Although the box office failure of a movie wouldn't hurt them to the point where they couldn't make a comeback, it would still make them a joke in the industry, and they would be humiliated. Time passed quietly, and Beijing entered the month of wildfire. Young Pugilistic World, The New 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, and Pugilistic World Wanderer were removed from the domestic cinemas one after another, ending their journey pathetically. Crushed by Disney's summer animated blockbuster, Dream Flyer, none of the 3 martial arts movies could rely on the box office to earn back their investment, and all of them suffered heavy losses. The impact of this was that many films of the same genre that were in preparation were aborted, and investors no longer favored martial arts films. The vigorous ones at the beginning had now disappeared. At the same time, many Hollywood blockbusters were released in the country. They were like wolves fighting for the box office, which also attracted the attention of the audience. No one would care about a few failures. On the Waves blog, a well-known film critic concluded that the fate of films like Young Pugilistic World was a failed attempt by domestic films to take a new path. If they wanted to break out of the mold of the original domestic films, they had to find another way. His view was supported by many people in the industry. However, not many people talked about the smiling, the proud wanderer which was expected to be released during the National Day. People were generally pessimistic. They thought that with the precedent of young pugilistic world, it would be difficult for the smiling, the proud wanderer to create outstanding results. Some people even predicted that the smiling, the proud wanderer would be Liu Chen's Waterloo, which would end his invincibility. The summer vacation passed like this. Looking back at the whole of July and August, except for two low-budget films that won a good reputation, there was nothing worth mentioning about domestic films. Most of the box office was harvested by Hollywood blockbusters. September 10th, 20 days before the screening of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Very good. At the headquarters of Chen Fei Media, in an audition room temporarily converted from a small conference room. When the projection screen displayed the ending credits, Chen Guoji, who was sitting in the middle of the front row, stood up and said in a firm tone, "Excellent, better than I expected." There was a burst of applause and laughter in the audition room. Chen Guoji reached out his hand to Liu Chen and said with emotion, "Liu Chen, I am very happy and honored to be able to cooperate with you in this movie." The movie that had just finished playing in the audition room was the digitally edited version of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Although Chen Guoji was the director of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, his work was mainly focused on the shooting of the early stage. The special effects, editing, dubbing, music, and so on were basically handled by Liu Chen. To be honest, when Chen Guoji took over The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, he didn't care too much about it. He was mainly moved by Liu Chen's sincerity and also owed him a favor. However, after shooting the movie and seeing the final result, the great director's heart was also fiercely shocked. He even slightly regretted that he did not put in 100% of his effort when directing the shooting. There were some details in the movie that were not perfect. The relationship between the characters was not clear enough, and the plot twist was a little stiff. From a professional point of view, there were still many problems. However, these problems couldn't cover up the brilliance of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, especially the effects of several key scenes, which made him, a famous director, feel refreshed. Chen Guoji's professional sensitivity told him that this would be a blockbuster film. Thinking of some people's negative comments on the media not long ago, Chen Guoji couldn't help smiling. "Director Chen, you are too kind," Liu Chen said quickly. "It is my honor and luck to be able to cooperate with you." Liu Chen was sincere. Without Chen Guoji, the senior director, the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer wouldn't be so smooth. Besides, he learned a lot from Chen Guoji. It was no exaggeration to say that Chen Guoji was his mentor. He deserved his respect. Chen Guoji shook his head with a smile and said, "I am ashamed to say that. I didn't do much, but I still have the title of director." After a pause, he asked, "It will be released in 20 days. Why didn't I see anything from your promotion?" As a film with an investment of hundreds of millions, the promotion of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was seriously lagging behind. Normally, it should have started 1 or 2 months earlier. Of course, Chen Guoji was very clear about the situation 1 or 2 months ago. It was really not suitable for promotion, but it was a bit too much if there was no promotion until now. Chapter 833. There was a reason why Chen Guoji cared about the marketing of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. First of all, he was the director of the movie. Although the box office success or failure couldn't shake his position in the industry, who would want his movie to be ignored in the market? Secondly, he appreciated Liu Chen. After more than half a year of cooperation, Chen Guoji had a good understanding of Liu Chen. He appreciated Liu Chen's character, talent, and dedication in work very much. He didn't want Liu Chen to make a low-level mistake at the most critical moment. Nowadays, the box office of the movies was getting higher and higher, so it was more and more dependent on marketing. Especially those blockbusters with amazing investment, they often needed a lot of marketing expenses, which often took up more than 30% of the total budget. 2 months ago, Young Pugilistic World, The New 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, and Pugilistic World Wanderer had launched a publicity war. The amount of money invested was not a small amount. Putting aside the final tragic result, the public opinion formed at that time was undoubtedly very strong. attracting the attention of countless people. Now, the three wuxia movies all failed, and even the reputation of the whole theme was dragged down. Under such circumstances, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was in an awkward situation, which undoubtedly needed to be solved through marketing. But it was obviously not easy to rebuild the confidence of the audience. So Chen Guoji was very worried. Was there enough time to carry out large-scale marketing in the remaining 20 days? Regarding Chen Guoji's question, Lu Chun smiled and said, "Director Chun, don't worry. We have already started the marketing work. I believe you will see the results soon." In fact, strictly speaking, the marketing of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had already started last year, but they didn't invest a lot of money in the media to advertise. Originally, the official marketing period of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would be in July or August, but it was messed up by someone, so they could only delay it until now. But the marketing and publicity department of Chun Fei Media was not just for show. The relevant preparations had already been completed, and they were just waiting for the right time to help The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer regain its reputation as a wuxia movie. If other young people said this to him, Chen Guoji would only think that they were exaggerating. But as for Lu Chun, he chose to believe Lu Chun because of the trust built up in more than half a year of cooperation. "That's good." After thinking about it, Chen Guoji said to Lu Chun, "I also know a lot of people in the media. If there's a need, I can more or less help. Also, are you not going to attend the Shanghai International Film Festival next month?" Shanghai International Film Festival? Lu Chun was stunned. He had never thought of sending The Smiling, Proud Wanderer to the Shanghai International Film Festival. The Shanghai International Film Festival was one of the three major film festivals in the country, and it was the earliest one. It was established in the early 1990s and was held once a year. It was also the first film festival in the country to be recognized by the International Film Producers Association. It was one of the 15 international A-list film festivals in the world and was recognized by the International Film Producers Association. Compared with the Beijing International Film Festival, which was also one of the three major film festivals, the Shanghai International Film Festival focused more on expanding the commercial market and encouraged diverse artistic creation. Therefore, it attracted many filmmakers from home and abroad to participate. Chen Guoji said seriously, "Actually, I would prefer you to hold the premiere of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer at the Shanghai International Film Festival, but the timing is not right." The Shanghai International Film Festival was held in mid-October, right after the National Day. If The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer premiered at the Shanghai International Film Festival, it meant that it would miss the National Day. This was unacceptable to Lu Chun and Chun Fei Media. Compared with the box office, attending the film festival was not important at all. The purpose of attending the film festival was to expand the influence of the film. In the final analysis, it was still about the box office, not the other way around. Lu Chun smiled bitterly. Yes, the timing is too bad. If the Shanghai International Film Festival was held half a month earlier, he would definitely try to send The Smiling, Proud Wanderer there because it was a good promotion point. But it was said that the Shanghai International Film Festival was going to change the time to June, which was before the summer holiday. That way, many domestic films could premiere at the film festival. Of course, the first film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, would not be able to catch up with this wave, but the next one might be able to. Chen Guoji said, "It doesn't matter if we can't catch up with the premiere, we can send it to the exhibition." He further explained, "We don't need to attend the awards, because it's meaningless. The purpose of sending it to the exhibition is to promote The Smiling, Proud Wanderer to overseas sellers in the market." Lu Chun suddenly understood. In fact, Lu Chun didn't attach much importance to several domestic film festivals. Whether it was the Capital International Film Festival or the Shanghai International Film Festival, the water in them was very deep, especially in the awards award link. They often made some jaw-dropping news, and their reputation among the film audience was not very good. But if they only sent it to the exhibition to attract sellers from other countries, it would be very good. Especially in Southeast Asian countries, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer should have a certain market. Using the Shanghai International Film Festival to promote, it would undoubtedly save a lot of effort. After thinking it through, Lu Chun immediately nodded and said, "Then I will ask my company to contact the organizer of the film festival. Is it too late to sign up now?" Chun Guoji smiled and said, "I have already signed up for you. You can ask your company to contact them." Under normal circumstances, the applicant for the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, should be Chunfei Media. No one was qualified. However, Chun Guoji was a famous director in the country. It was very easy for him to inform the organizer in advance. It was nothing more than letting Chunfei Media fill in the formalities. Lu Chun was very grateful. "Thank you, Director Chun." "Don't mention it." Chun Guoji shook his head and said, "It's not a big deal. That's all I can do for you. I really hope the Smiling, Proud Wanderer can create a new genre of domestic films and go out of China to the world." He sighed and said, "Nowadays, domestic films have reached the stage of innovation. I think wuxia films have the potential to do that, and the Smiling, Proud Wanderer also has the ability to do that." He didn't mention the other wuxia films, such as Jiang Hu Yang, because after watching the sample of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he thought those were just clumsy followers. They didn't even imitate the essence of wuxia films. They couldn't even be counted as real wuxia films. Chun Guoji was looking forward to the official screening of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Chapter 834. After sending Chun Guoji away, Lu Chun informed Lu Shi to hold an internal meeting of the company. General Affairs Department, Marketing Department, Client Department, Finance Department, Logistics Department, all the department heads, as well as the management personnel who were not out for work, rushed to the meeting room as soon as they received the notice. Lu Chun didn't like meetings. The daily operation and management of Chunfei Media was also managed by Lu Shi. Although he held the most shares, he was usually a hands-off manager. But today's situation was very different because this meeting was the promotion meeting for the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. It was not only related to the box office of this movie, but also related to the future of Lu Chen's wuxia IP plan. At present, the people in the company were still stable, but the influence of the outside world always existed. The failure of wuxia movies, such as Young Man and Pugilistic World, made many people a little unconfident. Therefore, Lu Chun personally attended this meeting. The purpose was to gather people's morale, twist the whole company into a rope, and launch the publicity and screening work of the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. And the effect was very good. When the middle and senior management personnel of Chunfei Media saw Lu Chun and Lu Shi sitting at the main seats, they all showed excitement, and the atmosphere in the meeting room quickly became enthusiastic. Although Chunfei Media was established for less than 2 years, it expanded very fast. At present, it had more than 300 employees, set up a complete department, and hired a group of experienced and capable management personnel. These employees and the department managers could be said to be the solid support of Lu Chun. Without their hard work, it would be impossible for Lu Chun to realize his ambition and create one peak after another in his career. On the contrary, in the eyes of the employees of these companies, Lu Chun is not only the top star in China, but also an idol who has never failed. Whether it is singing, making movies, making TV series, producing variety shows, or even writing scripts, he has shown extraordinary talent, sweeping the market and sweeping away all obstacles. It was this halo of invincibility that allowed Lu Chun to have an extremely high status in Chunfei Media. Although he did not spend much time in the company, his position as the soul of the company was unshakable. After everyone had arrived, Lu Shi immediately announced the start of the meeting and briefly explained the theme of the meeting. That was the 21-day marketing campaign for the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. From tomorrow to the premiere on October 1st, the promotional period of the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, was 21 days. Chunfei Media would invest a lot of money in these 3 weeks to bring the movie back to the public's attention. Lu Chun had set a budget of 50 million yuan for the first song of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which was almost half of the shooting cost. Actually, a lot of this money had already been spent because a lot of media advertising spaces needed to be purchased in advance, and there were other planning activities and so on. Manager Fong, contact Beijing Television this afternoon about the advertisement placement. Supervisor Lin, how's the discussion with the subway company going? Will we be able to install the billboard? In the QQ network, we need to invest more. This meeting was still presided over by Luke Shi. After 3 or 4 years of honing, her sister had quickly grown into an elite in the industry. She gave orders with confidence, and the directors and managers of the various departments all obeyed her orders. After arranging the work, Lu Shi turned to Lu Chun and said, "You say a few words." Lu Chun nodded and reached out to press the switch of the microphone. He organized the words in his mind and then said, "I won't say more about the work. I believe everyone will be able to do it well. I'll just talk about the goal I want to achieve here." Lu Chun looked around, glanced at the faces of the department managers and directors one by one, and said in a deep voice, when the smiling, proud wanderer started shooting, "A reporter once asked me what the box office expectation of this movie was. My answer is 1-to-1. 5 billion. Hearing the two numbers from Lu Chen's mouth, everyone's expression was a little subtle. At that time, when Lu Chun said that the smiling, proud wanderer could have a box office of more than 1 billion, most people still believed it, because Lu Chen's first work, A Chinese Ghost Story, had a box office of more than 1 billion in China, and the smiling, proud wanderer was a film adapted from a popular IP. With the participation of several big stars, there was no reason that the box office would not be as good as its predecessor. But now I'm afraid many people don't think so, because with the bloody example of Young Jianghu, it was difficult to make people have full confidence in the smiling, proud wanderer, which was delayed until the National Day. Young Jianghu was also a popular IP, with a large investment, a luxury star lineup, and a huge amount of publicity. As a result, it didn't even recover the cost. As for the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous and The Wanderer, it was even worse. The box office failure of the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous even dragged down the parent company of the Land Pictures, and the stock price fell to the limit. The summer period that made the major film companies heartbroken had just passed. To be honest, no one had any idea whether Lu Chen's original bold words could be realized, and they even subconsciously felt that it was better to be cautious. For example, the break-even profit of 500 million to 700 million in the box office should be more realistic. Lu Chun looked at the expressions of these department managers and supervisors, and he could see through their thoughts as if they were watching a fire. He knocked on the conference table with his fingers and said, "Now, I still insist on the same box office prediction and ask the company to be unified in the publicity." A department manager couldn't help but ask, "Director Liu, do you mean that we still insist on the box office prediction of the smiling, proud wanderer in the 1-to-1? 5 billion in the publicity?" In his opinion, such a request from Lu Chun was really unnecessary. Things were different now. If the final box office did not meet the expectations, wouldn't Lu Chun be slapping himself in the face? It was normal to make a mistake the first time, and it would be easy to become a joke if he insisted on his own opinion when the situation changed. It would be a heavy blow to Chun Fei Media and Lu Chun. However, Lu Chun's answer was extremely firm. "Yes, because I have confidence in the smiling, proud wanderer. The quality and effect of Sword of Mount Hua have reached and even exceeded my expectations. So I believe that the box office of this film can completely achieve our goal. So we don't need to be cautious in the publicity and don't be affected by other people's failure." The conference room was extremely quiet, and only Lu Chen's sonorous voice echoed. His strong confidence infected everyone in the room. Chapter 835. Jiangcheng, Lightspeed Internet Cafe. When night fell, the Internet Cafe gradually became bustling with activity. It was bustling with activity. Lightspeed Internet Cafe was originally called Lightspeed Internet Cafe. It had been open for more than 10 years. Although the current situation of the Internet Cafe industry was not as good as it used to be, and many Internet cafes had already closed down, this Internet Cafe could still be maintained by relying on its geographical advantage and persistent low-price strategy. However, in the second half of last year, the district issued a notice to rectify all small and medium-sized Internet cafes. Lightspeed Internet Cafe faced the situation of closing down. The boss had no choice but to transfer it to someone else to avoid losing everything in the end. After the new boss took over, he bought the business room next door and used the reorganization time to upgrade the internet cafe. Thus, there was the current Lightspeed Internet Cafe. The name only changed a few words, but it immediately appeared to be a lot more lofty. Of course, the consumption was also incomparable to before. The internet fees increased by several times, scaring away many old customers who were short of money. Fortunately, the new boss still knew how to do business. He continuously introduced a number of preferential measures, such as 50 free if you charge 100, 150 free if you charge 200. He still retained many people. Wang Pu was one of the old customers who stayed. Wang Pu moved here more than a year ago. Although the conditions of the new rental apartment were better than before, and a landlord gave him a network cable, he could enjoy free broadband. However, the feeling of staying in the rental apartment to surf the internet was obviously not as good as the internet cafe. Thus, he became a regular customer of the internet cafe. His first choice was, of course, the nearest light-speed internet cafe. Wang Pu's income was not bad, and his family did not have any financial burdens. In addition, he was a single dog, so his usual expenses were not high. Therefore, upgrading the Lightspeed Internet Cafe to Lightspeed Internet Cafe was not a big deal for him. He directly applied for a 500 free membership card, which was enough for half a year's expenses. The Internet Cafe was a bit expensive, but the environment was really much better. It was all non-smoking areas. At least, it was not as foul as before. There were a lot more girls who came to surf the internet. Wang Pu had just sat down in his old seat when a girl came next to him. Wang Pu skillfully turned on the computer and quickly logged into his QQ number. The headset on the table suddenly emitted a DDD sound that lasted for a few seconds. The girl next to him heard it and curiously glanced at Wang Pu. Wang Pu didn't notice. He quickly opened his QQ and replied to the messages one by one. These messages basically came from QQ groups. Wang Pu had set up a total of 7 QQ groups, all of which were fan groups of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The total number of members in the group had exceeded 20,000, which was considered a small influence in the martial arts circle. Because he couldn't use QQ during the day, Wang Pu used the evening to manage his QQ group and discuss the plot of the book with the group members. Wang Pu was one of the earliest fans of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. When the Smiling, Proud Wanderer was serialized on Waves, he had organized many voting activities to support it. He was also a loyal fan of the author Memories of Present and Past. Wang Pu was the happiest when Chunfei Media bought the copyright of the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. He couldn't wait to see his favorite book on the big screen. The group members in the QQ group were also very concerned about this. The topic of discussion changed from the novel to the movie, especially when they knew that Lu Chun, Chun Fei, Lu Gangsheng, Tan Hong, and other big names were going to star in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. They were all very excited. As a result, the release date of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was pushed back again and again until it was released during the National Day. Wang Pu was a bit unhappy about this. Then he recently saw the news on the internet that due to the box office failure of Young Wanderer and other martial arts movies, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer may not be released as scheduled. He really didn't feel good in his heart. He always felt lost and inexplicably restless. Especially seeing that the National Day was not far away. There was no movement from Chunfei Media, which seemed to confirm this rumor from another aspect. Group leader, you finally came. Have you seen the poster of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer? The stills of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer are also out. Group leader, you have to send red envelopes. Well, there's also a cosplay competition. Is anyone in the group participating? If you want to go, bring me. Ha ha ha. I'm going to watch it now. Seeing the messages in the QQ group, Wang Pu was a bit confused. The stills of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer are out. He really didn't know anything. It was also because of the secrecy of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer and their indifference to the promotion. They had been shooting for more than half a year, and there were only a few stills leaked out. It gave people a very mysterious feeling. Other movies started to hype up a year before they were released. Not to mention the stills, posters, and promotional videos. There were all kinds of scandals and inside stories everywhere. The truth and falsehood were all over the place. In contrast, the smiling, proud wanderer was simply a clear stream. It didn't follow the normal pattern at all. Now that the stills were finally out, was it time to start the promotion? And what about the cosplay competition? Wang Pu didn't look for the answer in the group. He had to maintain the prestige of the group leader. He opened the browser and logged into the blog. He clicked on the official account of the smiling, proud wanderer in the followed list. The official account of the smiling, proud wanderer was also a weirdo in the blog of waves. Especially in the past 6 months, there was basically no promotion except for the regular report of the production progress. It was so low-key that it felt sorry for the millions of fans who followed it. But the situation was obviously different today. The official account of the smiling, proud wanderer updated 3 blog posts in one go, including 5 promotional posters, hundreds of movie stills, and an announcement of a promotional activity. Wang Pu clicked on the first poster at the top of the list as fast as lightning. The high-resolution poster picture appeared clearly on the computer screen in the blink of an eye. So handsome! Wang Pu's eyes lit up. The main character of this poster was Ling Hu Chong, played by Lu Chen. He was wearing a gray shirt with a long sword hanging on his waist. There was a trace of unruly smile on his face. With the steep mountains behind him, there was an indescribable sense of freedom. This was the Ling Hu Chong in his heart. This was the first thought that came to Wang Pu's mind when he saw this poster. In addition to being handsome enough, the temperament that Lu Chen showed was completely in line with the description in the book. Most importantly, from the style, Wang Pu saw that the smiling, proud wanderer was different from other martial arts movies. That was the feeling of a martial arts hero. Chapter 836. So handsome. While Wang Pu was enjoying the first poster of the smiling, proud wanderer, a clear voice came from the side. Is this Lu Chen's new movie? Wang Pu couldn't help but turn his head and saw that the girl sitting next to him was curiously looking at his computer screen. Her sparkling eyes flashed with the light of surprise. This girl was in her 20s. She wasn't very beautiful and could barely be considered delicate and pretty. However, her body was brimming with youthfulness, which still made Wang Pu, an otaku, feel a little excited. Hearing the girl's question, he quickly said, "Yes, it is the poster of Lu Chen's The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It just came out tonight." The girl smiled. "I am a fan of Lu Chen. I have heard of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It seems to be adapted from a martial arts novel. Is it going to be released soon?" Even if she is a fan, she is just a fan. Wang Pu complained in his heart, but he became more polite. It will be released on October 1st, National Day. The original novel is also very good. The character played by Lu Chen is called Ling Hu Chong. He wanted to introduce the story of the smiling, proud wanderer to her, but the girl was not interested at all. What attracted her was the beautiful poster on the screen. She moved her, but picked up the mouse on the table and clicked on the next poster. Wang Pu closed his mouth, and his attention was also attracted by the next poster. The protagonist of the second poster was changed to Chun Fei-er. She was dressed in a white traditional Han costume, which set off her heavenly fragrance. She waved her sword as if she was flying with the wind. Against the background of the beautiful river behind her, she looked like a fairy. Her otherworldly aura was blowing in the face. Ren-ying, Wang Pu's heartbeat suddenly increased by 2 times. This was the Ren-ying he liked the most in his heart. Chun Fei-er is so beautiful. The girl sitting beside him praised sincerely. Wang Pu actually heard some envy and even jealousy in her voice. Different from those female stars who rely on plastic surgery, makeup, and PS to maintain their image, Chun Fei-er is a real natural beauty. Her bare face is enough to kill a lot of her peers. Now her image in the smiling, proud, and arrogant wanderer has raised her temperament a lot again. I have to save this poster and use it as my computer desktop. The girl sitting next to him didn't spend too much time admiring Chun Fei-er's poster. She clicked on the third one. The third poster was of Lu Gangsheng, who played the role of Xiang Wentian. In the smiling, The proud wanderer, Xiang Wentian, was also Wang Pu's favorite character. Among the male characters, Xiang Wentian was second only to Ling Huchong. Wang Pu thought that although Xiang Wentian was not a righteous person, he was good at martial arts, bold, resourceful, and had a bright personality. Lu Gangsheng, who was played by Lu Gangsheng, gave Wang Pu another surprise. Unconsciously, he had great expectations for The Smiling, the proud martial world, which would be released on October 1st. He had planned to watch it, but now he had to get support from the cinema. If it was interesting enough, he would watch it 2 or 3 times. The 5 movie posters were soon finished. What was more considerate was that the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer provided high-resolution pictures for download. "Can you send me this website address?" The girl sitting next to him asked Wang Pu. "I want to download these posters." I was just about to download it. Wang Pu suddenly had an idea and said, "Tell me your QQ number. I'll send it to you now. You can save in your QQ network disk and watch it and download it at any time." The girl pursed her lips and smiled, but she still generously told him her QQ number. Wang Pu quickly added it, and at the same time, he downloaded the poster pictures on the blog and sent them to the other party. As Wang Pu said, the girl saved the picture file in the QQ disk. After thanking him, she got off the phone and left, which made his heart, which had just been stirred up, splashed a basin of cold water on it. If he got the QQ number, he still had a chance. Wang Pu comforted himself and continued to look at the stills released by the official account. There were more than 100 stills of the movie leaked on the official website. To a large extent, the style of the upcoming movie was displayed. The outstanding scenes made Wang Pu's heart itch. After browsing through all of them, he couldn't wait to open his QQ group. At this time, it was the most lively time in the QQ group. As the fan group of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, the most discussed topic was undoubtedly the movie posters and stills released by the official account. "Lu Chun is so handsome. He's exactly the Ling Huchong I thought he was. I must go to the cinema on October 1st. This is the real martial art style. What the hell was the previous Young Wanderer? It can't be compared at all. The box office deserves to be a flop. Ren Ying is so tall, and Chun Fei is so beautiful. I was worried that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would be made like those martial arts movies, which would ruin the classic. Now I'm finally relieved. Who knows when the movie tickets will be sold in advance? My Feishin account is already thirsty. Rest assured, +1. Looking at these comments in the group, Wang Pu couldn't help but smile. It seems that everyone's opinion is exactly the same. The posters and stills released by the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer are really great. They completely beat the previous group of imitators. Thinking about the characters in Young Wanderer and Jianghu Wanderer, where are the characteristics of martial arts? They completely copy the routine of fantasy and fantasy. The decoration is gorgeous and the appearance is bright. They don't look like real characters at all. They only know how to sell their face. They don't have the temperament of a hero at all. To put it bluntly, compared with The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, those so-called martial arts movies have become trash in terms of character design. Although the movie hasn't been released yet, it's hard to say the specific quality, but at least this is a film that is loyal to the original and pays attention to quality. Wang Pu is looking forward to the National Day soon. On the evening of September 20th, the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer released the movie posters and stills, which officially opened the publicity of this martial arts blockbuster and immediately attracted the attention of countless fans and industry circles. The next night, at the same time, the official account released the first official trailer again. On the evening of the 22nd, the second trailer was released. Starting from the 21st, the promotional posters of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer appeared in major cinemas all over the country. The advertisements of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer appeared in the subway stations and bus stops of several major big cities. Not only that, Chinfei Media also announced that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer will participate in next month's Shanghai International Film Festival. At the same time, the Smiling, Proud Wanderer cosplay competition will be held at the Capital Animation Festival at the end of next month. Such a series of intensive publicity actions made this martial arts movie, which has been silent for a long time, suddenly reappear in everyone's eyes. Chapter 837. In modern society, the power of money was infinite. The advertising of any product was inseparable from the support of a large amount of money. Generally speaking, the more money was spent, the more people would be affected, and the deeper the level of influence would be. Of course, movies were no exception. In fact, movies were one of the industries that paid the most attention to advertising and marketing, especially Hollywood, the king of movies in the world. They invested an astonishing amount of money in this area every year. It was normal for a movie that invested $100 million to spend another $50 million on marketing. This kind of huge investment in advertising and marketing was also one of the mysteries of Hollywood movies that dominated the world. This year, with the continuous expansion of the domestic movie market, domestic movies also paid more and more attention to marketing, especially for blockbusters with high investment. They racked their brains to do more publicity, especially in the area of online marketing. But it was quite rare for the smiling, the proud wanderer to invest so much money in such a short period of time and create such a big impact. It inevitably caused a great impact in the industry. Some people were dumbfounded. This was not the right style. For a long time, Chunfei Media, represented by Lu Chun, didn't invest much in marketing. Whether it was a record or a TV series, they often used their own influence to promote. The most typical example would be the online platform. Usually, when he and Chunfei Air showed their love, there would be hundreds of thousands or even millions of shares. The TV series didn't need to be promoted at all. Countless fans were eagerly looking forward to it. They didn't have to pay for it, but the media was also chasing after it, and the ratings kept rising. It couldn't be helped because Lu Chun was so popular. He posted a blog on Wave's blog, and the publicity effect was worth millions of marketing investment. That was something that others couldn't be envious of. The smiling, proud wanderer undoubtedly adopted the same publicity strategy at the beginning. Lu Chun wrote a love poem to Chunfei Er, and it was unknown how many people's eyes were attracted to it. As for the investment, it was almost equal to nothing. However, what people didn't expect was that Chunfei Media would make a huge investment in promoting The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, which was only half a month away from the screening of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. The entertainment circle was big, but it was also small. The news in the entertainment circle always spread fast. Although Chunfei Media did not disclose how much they had spent on the promotion of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, people in the industry quickly deduced that Chunfei Media had spent at least 30 million yuan, and the total budget was estimated to be double. This kind of inference was quite accurate and shocked many people. Some people guessed that Chunfei Media, or more accurately, Lu Chun, must have realized the huge pressure of the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World, so they promoted it at all costs, trying to reverse the embarrassing situation faced by the current martial arts movies. At the opening ceremony of The Smiling, Proud Martial Artist, Lu Chun had predicted a box office of 1 billion to 5 billion. If he couldn't even achieve half of it, he would undoubtedly lose face. Some were surprised, some were curious, and some were gloating, thinking that Lu Chun had finally run out of tricks. The more advertisements were invested in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, the fiercer the publicity was. Many people in the industry were more pessimistic about the box office of the movie. They even thought that Chunfei Media might not be able to recover the cost after adding a huge amount of marketing expenses. Look at you. You were so confident before. In the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz, Chunfei showed his phone to Lu Chun and said gloatingly, "Now someone has something on you, right?" Lu Chun took a look and found that the screen showed a blog post from a verified self-media person on Wave's blog. He said that The Smiling, The Proud Martial World's box office was between 500 million to 700 million yuan, or even lower. In order to prove his point, this self-media person also listed a lot of data, including the box office of Young Man and Jianghu and other martial arts movies, and even the information from a research company. The production cost of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World, and the publicity cost were calculated according to the investment of 200 million yuan. The box office needed to reach more than 400 million yuan to break even. And that didn't include the salary of Lu Chun and Chun Fei-er. It would be 500 million yuan. Missing the golden summer period and facing the dilemma of the theme, it was undoubtedly extremely difficult for The Smiling, The Proud Martial World to create a new miracle in the box office. The conclusion of this self-media person was approved and supported by many people. It was reposted and liked by tens of thousands of people. They also thought that movies with the theme of martial arts were destined to be a failure of domestic movies. The Smiling, The Proud Martial World would follow the footsteps of Young Man and Jianghu, and it would be extremely lucky to break even in the end. Lu Chen didn't care about the negative comments on the blog at all, because the final decision of the box office was not made by the big and small versus in the industry, but by the hundreds of millions of audience. He was confident in his own work, so why should he be afraid of others' sarcasm? Since he started his career, there were always slander and slander behind the flowers and praises. He didn't know how many people were waiting for him to be unlucky. Lu Chun swiped the screen with his finger, looking through the blog posts related to The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. In fact, in addition to these negative comments, there were also many supporters of Lu Chun in Wei's blog, especially for the posters, stills, and trailers released by the official V of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. Some film critics thought that The Smiling, The Proud Martial World was not the same as Young Man and Jianghu. In addition to the excellent character designs, several edited fighting scenes were also very wonderful, with distinct and unique characteristics. Especially the fighting scene in the rain in the second trailer. There were no fancy special effects, no exaggerated performance, and every move was full of cruel beauty of violence. It was different from Hollywood action blockbusters, and also different from the popular IP adaptations of domestic movies. They believed that as long as the film maintained the same standard, it would definitely bring unexpected surprises to the audience. As a person who is good at creating miracles, this film critic believed that Lu Chun would not let everyone down. His point of view was also supported by many people, especially Lu Chen's fans. But there were also people who argued that he was being paid by Chun Fei Media to speak. But Lu Chun could guarantee that so far, Chun Fei Media had never spent money on a film critic, including this time when the publicity of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World was so big, but there was no budget arrangement in this area. Of course, even if Chun Fei Media came out to refute, it would not be able to convince everyone. So in the end, the truth had to speak, and the truth was the box office. In 3 days, The Smiling, The Proud Martial World would be released in all the major cinemas in the country. Lu Chen gave the phone back to Chun Fei-er, and his mind couldn't help but drift to the future. Chapter 838. Beijing New Era Art Park, Chun Fei Media Headquarters. September 29th was Saturday. Since it was October 1st, the National Day, 2 days later, this year's National Day holiday began today. Including next week, there would be a total of 9 days of holiday time. Most enterprises had already entered the holiday mode of the Golden Week. However, few employees of Chun Fei Media had a holiday. In fact, most of them couldn't go sightseeing or sleep at home during the holiday. On the contrary, they had to work overtime. It wasn't because the boss exploited the employees inhumanely. In fact, the treatment of the employees of Chun Fei Media was well known in the industry. All the employees who worked overtime would get multiple times the salary and holiday compensation. The reason for this situation was that the most important movie for Chun Fei Media, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, would be officially released on October 1st, and the pre-sale of the movie tickets had started as early as 4 days ago. At the same time, the promotional activities of major media had also reached a peak. Tens of millions of yuan had been spent. It could be said that the success or failure of the movie depended on this Golden Week. All kinds of information were summarized from different channels. The pre-sale results were gradually clear. The latest data was printed on a thin piece of A4 paper and sent to the general manager's office. Lu Chun, Lu Shi, and Chun Fei were all in the office. Lu Shi picked up the heavy paper, spent a few seconds to read it, and then handed it to Lu Chun. There was no expression on his sister's face. Lu Chun took it, and lines of data immediately came into view. As of 3:00 p.m. on the 29th, the cumulative pre-sale box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer in Beijing, 357-2570, Shanghai, 298-0500, Shenzhen, 210-2570, the national cumulative pre-sale box office, for 1275630. The pre-sale in 5.5 days was more than 40 million yuan. Plus the rest of the day and tomorrow, it was basically impossible for the pre-sale box office to exceed 50 million yuan. For many domestic movies, such a pre-sale result was completely worthy of a celebration party. But for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, it really wasn't so good. Under normal circumstances, the ticket sales of movies now accounted for 10% to 15% of the total box office. Unless the movie's reputation was bad or it became very popular, there were very few exceptions. According to this ratio, the total box office of The Smiling, Proud Martial World would not exceed 500 million yuan. It would be very difficult for it to recover its cost. Moreover, such a pre-sale result was produced under the circumstance that tens of millions of yuan had been invested in promotion. Moreover, according to the release schedule, there was no way to compare the National Day period with the summer and New Year period. Although there were fewer competitors, the box office expectations were bound to be discounted. Such a start was undoubtedly quite unfavorable. After reading the statistics, Chun Fei also fell silent. The atmosphere in the office was very heavy. After a while, Lu Shi said, "We have also invested 30 million yuan in the surrounding area." There was a hint of bitterness in his sister's voice. Because of the success of Lu Chen's first movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, in terms of box office and peripheral products, Chun Fei Media invested more in The Smiling, Proud Martial World. Big variety and quantity of the customized peripheral products had already exceeded that of A Chinese Ghost Story. Most of them had already been sent to cinemas all over the country. The higher the box office, the more popular the peripheral products were. This was an unshakable iron law, and vice versa. Now the pre-sale of The Smiling, Proud Martial World was not good, and the future box office was covered with a shadow. Under such circumstances, the future of the peripheral products that had already been piled up in cinemas and stores was undoubtedly uncertain. It's all because of those rats. Chun Fei slammed the paper in his hand on the table and said angrily, "That's too hateful. The rats *T. That Chun Fei said was naturally the few movies that followed the trend in the summer. If they didn't ruin the reputation of a martial arts movie, with the popularity of the IP of The Smiling, Proud Martial World, the cast of stars, and the high investment in the promotion, the pre-sale of the movie would have reached 50 million yuan no matter what. It was definitely not appropriate to say that they were stupid teammates, and it was not appropriate to say that they were stupid opponents. They could only be described as rats *T. They were not good people, and they were big and disgusting to others." Different from A Chinese Ghost Story, Chun Fei had a lot of feelings for The Smiling, Proud Martial World. She played the big negative boss in the former, and the latter was the heroine. It was the first blockbuster that she and Lu Chen acted as the heroine and heroine. It was very meaningful. Although the poor box office of The Smiling, Proud Martial World would not affect the operation of Chun Fei Media, Chun Fei was still disgusted because she was very clear that Lu Chen had put in a lot of effort for this martial arts movie. If his efforts were wasted because of others' stupidity, it would be too unfair. Actually, the situation, Lu Chen shook his head and said, "It's not as serious as you think. It's not that we don't have a chance." It should be said that he made a mistake on the project of The Smiling, Proud Martial World. The mistake was that he did not expect the possible unfavorable situation and delayed the screening time of The Smiling, Proud Martial World from the summer to the National Day. As a result, it caused a series of passive situations. But for Lu Chen, it was not unacceptable to pay such a price. Because the reason why he did not rush the screening time was to ensure the quality of the movie, to ensure that the first part of the smiling, proud martial world could achieve a perfect start. This perfect not only referred to the box office, but also the audience's reputation. Therefore, the current pre-sale results of the box office did not mean anything. The key was the response and evaluation after the screening. This was the reason why Liu Chun could still maintain his confidence. At this moment, it was too early to say whether it would succeed or fail. Seeing Liu Chen's calmness, she was a little bit anxious, so we all worried about you for nothing. If the box office is really not good, you will be the one who will lose face, as you said you could get more than 1 billion yuan in the box office. Liu Chun said with a smile, I am thick-skinned, it doesn't matter. Seeing his shameless look, Chanfer also couldn't help laughing, and his gloomy mood dissipated a lot. Liu Chun seized the opportunity and said, Okay, we don't need to worry about the pre-sale anymore. Let's go now. Tonight, Qinfei Media would hold the premiere of the smiling, proud martial world at Beijing Polygram Theater. People from all walks of life were invited to attend. As a host, they definitely had to arrive in advance. This premiere was not too grand, but the invitation letters had already been sent out. Most of the guests who received the invitation had clearly indicated that they would come, so it also played a role in promoting the smiling, proud martial world. But apart from all the promotions and activities, the final result of the box office was still the movie itself. Chapter 839. In the capital, Poly Theater. In the past 10 years, because of the rapid development of the film market, cinemas had sprung up in the capital. The number of cinemas had increased several times, and the number of screens had increased more than 10 times. But in the eyes of the old people in the capital, Poly Theater was undoubtedly one of the best cinemas in their hearts. This theater, with a history of 60 years, was located in the bustling area of the center of the capital. It originally served as a cinema, a theater, and a conference hall. After several renovations, its scale and facilities were no longer the same as before. Because of its history, location, fame, and versatility, many movies, including domestic and foreign blockbusters, chose to have their premieres in Poly Theater. At 7:30 on Saturday, September 29th, the premiere of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was also held in Poly Theater. The main hall of Poly Theater could accommodate 500 people. Qinfei Media didn't make a big promotion for the premiere, so it was quite low-key. The invited guests were mainly colleagues of Qinfei Media, friends of Liu Chun and Chunfer in the circle, media representatives, filmmakers, and so on. Although there were only 10 media outlets that had been officially invited, a large number of uninvited media outlets had already arrived before the premiere began. They occupied favorable positions in the Polygram Theater and set up their cameras and cannons. Liu Chun, who came out to greet the guests in person, was surrounded by people. If it weren't for the security, he would have been drowned by the reporters. Liu Chun, Mr. Liu Chun, I am a reporter for New Film Network. May I ask, I heard that the pre-sale of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was only about 40 million. Is it true? Liu Chun, the theme of martial arts has been regarded as the poison of the box office. So, do you still stick to the original prediction of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer? Liu Chun, dozens of reporters were noisily talking at once, itching to put the microphone in Liu Chen's mouth, and the questions they asked were not all friendly and harmonious, but aggressive questions. Seeing this, Liu Chen knew that if he didn't say anything, it would be difficult to deal with them. He thought for a while and raised his hand to signal the reporters to be quiet. These reporters were all old foxes. At a glance, they knew that Liu Chun had something to say. They immediately shut their mouths, but desperately stretched out their microphones to Liu Chun so that their logo on the microphone appeared in the most conspicuous position of the camera. Liu Chun had seen a lot of reporters these years, so he had rich experience in dealing with them. He pointed to one of them. The reporter asked excitedly, "Hello, Liu Chun. I am a reporter from Entertainment every day. What is the current pre-sale of The Smiling? Can you tell me?" "What?" Liu Chun answered frankly, "More than 40 million. Now, Lu Chan said calmly. The presale of the box office was the same as the box office data. Because there were public channels to check, there was no need to hide it. In fact, the reporter of Entertainment Every Day already knew the relevant data, but he just took it as a topic. Hearing Lu Chen's answer, he immediately asked, the presale of less than 50 million yuan means that it's difficult for the total box office to exceed 500 million yuan. Can it be said that your prediction at the opening ceremony was wrong? Reporters liked controversial topics the most. It was not a big deal for them to humiliate Lu Chen in public like this. It was already a euphemism. Lu Chen was too famous. Since his debut, everything had been smooth. He had achieved great success in all aspects. He had never failed. For the reporters, reporting Lu Chen's success was not fresh at all. Only Lu Chen's failure could make them excited. If they could stimulate Lu Chen to say something out of shame, it would be perfect. However, this trick did not work on Lu Chen. He smiled and said, if you say that my previous prediction was wrong, then I still insist on it. Insist on being wrong? The reporter's jaw almost dropped. You still insist that the proud wanderer can get 1 to 1.5 billion at the National Day box office? Lu Chen shook his head, of course not. My prediction is the total box office. Originally, the Entertainment Everyday reporter had already made a detailed draft and prepared a lot of topics, but he didn't expect Lu Chen to be so stubborn and speak so resolutely, which made him unable to keep up with the rest of the words. Since he could not keep up, someone else asked, Lu Chen, then why do you think the proud wanderer can create a miracle and change the audience's impression of martial arts movies? Lu Chen smiled and said, of course it's because of the efforts of all the cast and crew of the proud wanderer. I believe this movie can bring a completely different experience to the audience. In fact, after saying so much, it's more appropriate for the audience to verify it themselves. This was not right. The reporters around Lu Chen did not get any exciting remarks from Lu Chen. Instead, they felt like they were led by him. They did not come here to help promote the proud wanderer. However, Lu Chen did not give them any chance. He raised his wrist and looked at his watch and said, it's almost time. I have to go now. Thank you, everyone. Talk next time. As he spoke, he turned around and walked into the theater, ignoring the shouts of the dumbfounded reporters behind him. Lu Chen was very clear that no matter how much he said, it would not change people's minds. Only hard facts could destroy all doubts. So there was no need to waste time now. At this moment, many guests who came to attend the premiere were gathered in the lobby of the theater. Drinks and refreshments were also prepared to serve the guests. Many people were chatting in groups of 2 or 3. Chen Fei walked over with Tian Tian. Tian Tian had flown to the capital yesterday to attend the premiere. She was staying at their home. Lu Shi also followed them and said, almost everyone is here. We can start. Lu Chen nodded and said, then let's start. Let's go in together. It was finally going to start. He took a deep breath, and his heart couldn't help but feel a trace of apprehension and confusion. He hadn't felt this way for a long time. Maybe it was because he was under a lot of pressure recently. Maybe it was because this movie carried too much expectation. It was going to be tested by the market soon, just like a student entering the college entrance examination. At this time, Chen Fei held his arm. Lu Chen turned around and saw Chen Fei's bright and beautiful eyes shining. It was trust, support, and encouragement. Chapter 840. What could they do in 90 minutes? They could attend 2 classes, take a nap, play a ball game with their friends, or enjoy a sweet and romantic dinner with their girlfriends. They could watch a movie in 90 minutes. In the #1 hall of the Poly Grand Theater, all 500 seats were occupied. When the lights and shadows of swords gradually faded away, the credits appeared on the huge screen. When the theme song of The Ocean's Roar sounded again, the lights in the hall slowly lit up, bringing everyone back to reality from the illusory world. Then there was applause. Clap, 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 clap. At first, it was 1 or 2 claps with some hesitation. But after a few seconds, the applause suddenly became more and more intense and more orderly. The guests who attended the premiere included industry colleagues who had good cooperation with Chunfei Media, friends of Lu Chun and Chunfei in the circle, and representatives of the media and film critics. No matter what the level of the movie was, the former would usually applaud out of politeness after watching the movie, but the latter might not, unless the movie was really recognized by them. Especially the film critics, unless they were specially hired with money, it was very difficult to impress them. These famous professional or semi-professional film critics with many fans on Waves were often very picky about the story, character settings, costumes, special effects, dubbing, and music of the movie. They were all within the scope of their judgment. Their standards might be different, but they were definitely much higher than the average audience. The same was true for the media and reporters. It was hard to please everyone, and they were no doubt the same. Now, whether it was the colleagues in the industry, friends in the circle, or the picky media and film critics, everyone applauded and stood up. No one talked or talked about it. The only thing that echoed in the theater was the endless applause, until Lu Chun led all the main crew to the stage. Chun Guoji was supposed to lead the crew to the stage for the premiere of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Unfortunately, he was attending a film festival in Europe as a judge, so he didn't make it. In addition, Lu Gangsheng and Tan Hong didn't come either. The former had another job, and the latter returned to his homebody life after making a guest appearance in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. He didn't want to stand under the spotlight anymore. But Lu Chun and Chen Feier were enough, especially Lu Chun. He was not only the leading actor of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, but also the action director, scriptwriter, arranger, and so on. Undoubtedly, he was the real soul of this movie. Everyone's eyes were focused on him, and the applause became even louder. The applause was recognition, praise, respect, and gratitude at the same time. Thank you, Lu Chun, and thank you to the crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer for giving us such a good movie. Their applause was warm and sincere. Lu Chun and Chan Feier smiled at each other, while the other main actors and main crew either had red eyes or tears in their eyes. They were so excited that they couldn't control themselves. It was really not easy. It had been a year since The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was set up to today's premiere. The crew had traveled all over the country to shoot and work overtime to meet the schedule. It could be said that they had put in a lot of effort. However, in the industry and on the internet, there were many negative comments about this movie, which hadn't been officially released yet. They thought that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would be the first failure of Chunfei Media, and they wouldn't even be able to recoup their cost. Seeing these comments, how could the crew be happy? Especially the actors who had suffered a lot in order to shoot a good action scene. They had been holding back their anger. Now their hard work had finally been justified. Although the applause now couldn't represent the audience, nor could it determine the box office, at least it made them feel that their hard work wasn't in vain. Thank you. Lu Chun cupped his hands and saluted. Thank you for your support. The applause that lasted for 2 minutes finally subsided, and the theater was soon quiet again. Lu Chun held the microphone and said, "It's a pity that the director of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, Director Chen Guoji, is far away in Spain, so he couldn't attend today's premiere. But I will definitely pass everyone's applause to Director Chun." As soon as he finished speaking, the applause came again. Lu Chun smiled and said, "It's so warm. I feel that Director Chun can hear it even in Europe." There was laughter in the applause. Lu Chun continued, "The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is the second movie I've been involved in, and it's also the first installment of Chunfei Media series of martial arts movies. I can honestly say that I and all the staff of Chunfei Media have high hopes for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. I hope it can be loved by the audience, and even go global." He didn't hide his ambition at all. If it was before the movie, most people would only politely greet him or even laugh at him in their hearts. But after watching the entire movie, many people changed their minds. They were even shocked. It was as if they had suddenly discovered a new world with too many possibilities. There were many real professionals in the theater. According to their standards, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would definitely recover its cost, and it was normal for it to make a huge profit from the box office. It was just that the final box office was still unknown. They had all watched Young Jong-hoo and the new Seven Heroes and 5 Gallons before, and it was because of the comparison that they understood the difference between the smiling, proud wanderer and those films that followed the trend. This difference in essence would undoubtedly be the potential for the smiling, proud wanderer to achieve success. Meng Xiaodang, who was sitting on the right side of the third row in the theater, was undoubtedly such a professional. He looked at Lu Chun, who was standing on the stage, and he was still recalling the wonderful scenes in the movie. At the same time, he was casually scribbling on the small notebook in his hand, leaving some meaningless lines. Different from most media reporters and film critics, Meng Xiaodang didn't like to use a tablet or a mobile phone to record what he saw. He preferred to write his own thoughts on paper, because the feeling of the pen tip on the paper was irreplaceable by any technology. From this point of view, Meng Xiaodang was a very emotional freelance writer. His film reviews were always full of emotional words. Perhaps it was a little bold and imaginative, but it was different from those of his peers who wrote in a conventional way. The feeling that the smiling, proud wanderer brought him was completely different from that of Young Jong-hoo. Last time when he attended the premiere of Young Jong-hoo, Meng Xiaodang couldn't write anything because he felt terrible. But now, he had too many thoughts, and he didn't know how to express them. Chapter 841. In the lobby of Poly Grand Theater. The main hall, which originally had multiple functions such as ticket sales, food and beverage sales, and audience rest area, was temporarily transformed into a banquet hall tonight. When the guests came out of the movie hall, a long table had been set under the chandelier in the center, and a tall champagne tower was shining under the bright lights. The champagne tower, flowers, and delicious Western desserts were all prepared when a movie was playing, which undoubtedly gave the guests a big surprise and a small surprise. Xinfei Media made such a gesture. It was called a premiere, but in fact, it was almost like a celebration party. Weren't they afraid of becoming a joke in the industry before the smiling, the proud martial artist was officially released? Obviously, Lu Chun was not so stupid that he didn't know what to do. The only explanation was that he had absolute confidence in the movie and believed that the smiling, the proud martial artist would definitely be a success. Before the premiere, most people were skeptical or pessimistic about it. But now, in the cheers and laughter, glasses of champagne were sent to the guests by the specially hired waiters from the hotel. The atmosphere was harmonious and warm. Many guests who had planned to leave stayed and used it as a place to socialize. Cheers! Lu Chun and Chun Fei accepted the congratulations and compliments of the guests together, and they frequently toasted. Chun Fei was a light drinker, and she was a little drunk after only 1 glass of champagne. Her pretty face was faintly flushed, which made her look even more beautiful. She was wearing a tight, white evening dress with narrow shoulders. Her black hair was tied up, and her swan-like neck was exposed. Her delicate and beautiful face and outstanding temperament undoubtedly made her one of the focuses of the audience. And Lu Chun, who was beside her, was not inferior. A well-tailored suit showed off his strong figure, and his handsome face was glowing. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and there was a touch of smile on his lips. Compared with the carefree and unrestrained Ling Hu Chong in the smiling, the proud martial artist, people unconsciously felt that they had traveled through time, reality, and illusion. So wonderful. Lin Jija held a glass of champagne and said, "When it's officially released in 2 days, I'll bring my family to the cinema to support it." The deputy general manager and music director of Flying Stone Records is an old friend of Lu Chun. He said half jokingly and half seriously, "I should have insisted on letting Flying Stone participate in the investment. Now I feel like I've lost 100 million yuan." The smiling, the proud wanderer was the beginning of Lu Chun's wuxia IP plan, and it was the cornerstone of Chun Fei Media for the next 10 years. Therefore, he didn't bring in many investors to share the risk, but only cooperated with several long-term partners. Flying Stone Records was one of the collaborators. The original soundtrack album of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was produced and distributed by Flying Stone Records. At that time, Flying Stone Records intended to get involved, but was declined by Chunfei Media. However, because of the good relationship between the two sides, many artists under Flying Stone Records have participated in the roles in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Mu Xiaochu was also an important supporting actress, and her role as Elin was outstanding. It could be foreseen that once The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is officially released, Mu Xiaochu's popularity will reach a new level. Together with several other artists, the benefits to Flying Stone Records will not be small. But people are greedy, and Lin Jijia was no exception. At the beginning, several martial arts films in the summer period failed miserably at the box office. Some of the senior executives of Flying Stone Records were quite glad that they didn't step into this big pit. Now that he thought about it, he felt it was ridiculous. Lu Chan said with a smile, "Thank you, Brother Jijia. We will have many opportunities for cooperation in the future." Lin Jijia pointed to him and said, "That's what you said. I'll remember it. Fei, you can testify. You can't go back on your word." In the past few years, through the cooperation with Lu Chun, Flying Stone Records has made a lot of money, especially its MSN Women's Group, which has firmly occupied the first throne in China and become the company's cash cow. But with the continuous growth of Chunfei Media, it was inevitable that people would worry about how long the cooperation between the two sides would last. What Lu Chen had just said undoubtedly gave Lin Jijia a reassuring pill. Chunfei pursed his lips and said with a smile, "Well, I'll remember it for Brother Jijia." Lin Jijia laughed and turned to socialize with others with satisfaction, giving the opportunity to others. As soon as Lin Jijia's front foot left, someone immediately came to Lu Chen's front foot. This was Zhang Yaocheng, the deputy general manager and editor-in-chief of Shanghai Publishing House, who also had a good relationship with Lu Chen. Shanghai Publishing House was one of the top 10 private publishing houses in China, with a strong scale and strength. When Lu Chen published the novel Autumn in My Heart, the publishing house won the copyright at a high price of 15% plus 500,000 yuan. At the beginning, it was Zhang Yaocheng who personally made the decision, offered such a high royalty, and single-handedly facilitated the contract. With Autumn in My Heart as the beginning, the novel version of Lu Chen's Full of Romance was also cooperated with Shanghai Publishing House. The total sales of Lu Chen's two novels added up to nearly 10 million. As a film and TV adaptation, it crushed a large number of best-selling novels. Putting aside the influence of the work itself, Shanghai Publishing House also contributed a lot. In the cooperation list of Lu Chen Studio, Shanghai Publishing House belonged to the first order. Later, You from the Star, and now The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and The Legend of the Condor Heroes were all published and distributed by Shanghai Publishing House. Relying on these best-selling novels, Shanghai Publishing House not only made huge profits, but also expanded its influence in the industry, and its development was thriving. At tonight's premiere, Zhang Yaocheng was also one of the special guests. However, compared to the film itself, he was more concerned about the novel. "Teacher Liu, when will Teacher Yi Jinggu's new work come out?" As the founder of the new school of wuxia novels, the pen name Yi Jinggu was like a well-known golden signboard in the literary circle. The two long-length wuxia novels, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and The Legend of the Condor Heroes, had one great success. Putting aside The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which had been published for nearly 2 years, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which was newly launched by Shanghai Publishing House, was sold out. It took 2 consecutive additional printing to meet the market demand. The ambitious Shanghai Publishing House was not satisfied because of this. They hoped that Yi Jinggu could strike while the iron was hot and write more and better works, so that the wuxia craze could continue. However, Yi Jinggu was very mysterious. He had never appeared in public and never participated in signing activities. All the copyrights were bought out to Chunfei Media. Zhang Yaocheng had wanted to meet him in person several times, but he had not been able to do so. Therefore, he could only settle for the next best thing, which was to urge the other party through his relationship with Lu Chen. The chief editor of Shanghai Publishing House did not know that the author was already standing in front of him. Chapter 842. Among the people present, only Chen Fei-er and Lu Shi knew that Eve Jing-gu was actually Lu Chen's sock puppet. Although they didn't understand the reason why Lu Chen hid himself, it stood to reason that this was a good thing to add a halo to himself. But since Lu Chen was determined to do this, the two closest people to Lu Chen naturally supported him unconditionally. Hearing Zhang Yaoqing's expectant inquiry, Chen Fei-er couldn't help but secretly roll his eyes at Lu Chen. Lu Chen noticed Chen Fei-er's eyes. He smiled and said, "President Zhang, I don't know, but you can rest assured that his new book will still cooperate with Shanghai Publishing House." Yi Jing-gu was him, and this guarantee was, of course, genuine. Zhang Yaoqing very much wanted to talk to the author himself. After all, Yi Jing-gu was now a cash cow of Shanghai Publishing House. If it was poached by others, then he, the deputy general manager and editor-in-chief, would probably have to resign. Otherwise, it would be difficult to atone for his crime. Originally, Zhang Yaoqing was not particularly nervous, but after watching the first movie of the smiling, proud wanderer, he was keenly aware that this martial arts movie was likely to have a sensational impact, and the result would inevitably have a huge impetus to the popularity of martial arts novels. It was inevitable that the value of Yi Jing-gu would increase greatly, and it would inevitably be coveted by competitors. If he didn't even have this vigilance, how could Zhang Yaoqing become the head of Shanghai Publishing House from an ordinary salesman? Now that he had received a personal guarantee from Lu Chen, although he couldn't say that he was completely relieved, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Following Lin Jijia in front of him, Zhang Yaoqing was also satisfied when he left. Then Beijing Television, Zhejiang Satellite TV, QQ, SYG, and other high-level guests invited to the ceremony expressed their congratulations to Lu Chen. Time passed quickly as they toasted each other. The guests began to leave, and Lu Chen, Chen Fei-er, and Lu Shi, as the hosts, saw them off one by one. "Hello, Lu Chen." Lu Chen had just seen off the manager in charge of QQ Video, and a middle-aged man greeted him politely. Lu Chen smiled and shook hands with him. "Hello." He had laughed too much tonight, and his face was almost stiff. But that was how it was in the social arena. As for the man in front of him, Lu Chen did not recognize him at all. He was merely entertaining him out of courtesy. The middle-aged man introduced himself. "My name is Meng Xiaodang." Lu Chen immediately reacted and quickly said, "So it's Teacher Meng. Nice to meet you." He had a good memory. He had seen the guest list for tonight's premiere. Although he hadn't met many of them before, he had memorized their basic information. Meng Xiaodang was a very famous freelance writer. The idea of his Waves blog was Teacher Meng. He had written many film reviews and had over 1 million fans. It must be pointed out that Meng Xiaodang was really a teacher, but he resigned a few years ago. Lu Chen still remembered that he had read several of his articles, which were very well written. Meng Xiaodang said with a smile, "You're welcome. It's my honor to be invited by Chun Fei Media and meet you here. You are the smiling, proud wanderer was better than I thought. Tonight's trip was really worthwhile." Lu Chen thanked him. "Thank you," Meng Xiaodang said very earnestly. "After watching this movie, I have a lot of ideas. I'm going to write a film review when I go back tonight. I know your time is very precious, but I really hope to have a detailed chat with you if I have the opportunity. Let's talk about martial arts movies. I don't know if this wish of mine can be realized." Of course, that's no problem. Lu Chen was ready to agree immediately, but a new idea quickly emerged in his mind. "Teacher Meng, if I want to put this conversation on TV, I wonder if you would be willing? Put it on TV?" Meng Xiaodang was suddenly stunned, but he was also considered half an insider. In the blink of an eye, he understood Lu Chen's idea. No one's success was by luck. Meng Xiaodang, who understood, admired Lu Chen greatly. This was obviously an idea that came up with on the spur of the moment. It was not the result of planning, but it was a perfect balance of time and interests. The TV station would definitely welcome this talk show. Lu Chen's influence was right there. Moreover, it was a movie that had just been released, so the ratings must be good. Lu Chen could take this opportunity to promote his own movie. Not only did he not need to spend a penny, he might even get an appearance fee. As for himself, although Meng Xiaodang was a very romantic freelance writer, he was not a saint who did not care about worldly affairs. He also needed to make money to support his family, and he also hoped to get more people's attention and recognition. Lu Chen's proposal was very beneficial to him. If he did not agree, it would be like being kicked in the head by a donkey. Out of a trace of the reserved nature of a scholar, he thought for a moment, then nodded hard and said, "I'm very willing. Thank you." Lu Chen said with a smile, "That's good. I'll arrange the time here. I'll ask someone from the company to contact you." After leaving his contact information, Meng Xiaodang said goodbye to Lu Chen. He was in a hurry to go back and write a film review article. Lu Chen watched the other person's figure disappear into the elevator, deep in thought. "What's wrong?" Chun Fei walked over and looked curiously at the elevator. "Who was that just now?" Meng Xiaodang, Teacher Meng. Lu Chen briefly explained the other person's identity to her and also told her his plans. Chun Fei pursed her lips and smiled. "You have a lot of wicked ideas." She asked again, "Then which TV station are you going to let do this show? Beijing TV or Zhejiang TV?" Lu Chen pretended to be dissatisfied. "Can't it be Central TV?" Chun Fei chuckled. "Do you think Central TV is owned by your family?" Lu Chen touched his chin. "That makes sense." Although the two were joking, it was really practical. Because through the talent show, the 8 storms meet in Beijing. Chun Fei Media, or rather, Lu Chen, had established a good cooperative relationship with Central TV. As long as he was willing to use his connections, Central TV Department 2 would not have too big of an obstacle. But this matter was not important. For Lu Chen, the most important thing was the official screening of The Sword of Mount Hua on National Day. Although the premiere was very well received, the final fate of a movie, which was decided by hundreds of millions of ordinary people, was the box office result. If the box office of The Smiling, Proud, and Proud was not good, what was the point of talking to Meng Xiaodang on TV? The premiere was over, but the journey of The Smiling, Proud, and Proud had just begun. The day after tomorrow was October 1st. Chapter 843. On September 29th, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had its premiere at the Poly Grand Theater in Beijing. That night, many domestic mainstream media and many famous people in the industry published their reviews on their websites and blogs. All of them were full of praises. Meng Xiaodang, whose ID was Teacher Meng, on Wave's blog, published his review at midnight. "Tonight, I experienced an adult fairy tale." This was the title of the blog post. The freelance writer, who had millions of fans, wrote in the post, "A history that is divorced from reality. The background of the film is completely imaginary. In this imaginary world, there are high and mighty sex, magical martial arts, exciting swords, heroic heroes who sing sorrowful songs, ambitious schemers, and devastatingly beautiful women. This movie contains thrilling fights, strange and unpredictable conspiracies, interesting romances, and rich philosophies. The one who leaves the deepest impression on the audience is undoubtedly the protagonist, Ling Huchong. He cares very little about fame and fortune, and he is not affected by worldly thoughts. He is free and unrestrained, and he is hot-blooded and heroic. Although he has experienced hardships, he is indomitable. I have never thought that a real martial arts movie would be like this. I have seen a few so-called martial arts movies before, and with all due respect, they are just a bunch of garbage. I think a real martial arts movie should be like this. It is a fairy tale that belongs to us adults." Meng Xiaodang's film review blog post was more than 2,000 words long. Unlike his usual film reviews, this blog post was obviously written in a hurry. Therefore, there was no elaborate embellishment in the writing style, but the true feelings between the lines were exactly his unique style. Those who were familiar with Teacher Meng knew that although he was over 40 years old, he had always been a romantic person. His reviews were casual, and he wrote whatever he wanted. He laughed and scolded freely, and he never betrayed his moral integrity. Meng Xiaotong's praise for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer exceeded his previous highest evaluation for domestic movies. So many fans left questions in the comment section. Teacher Meng, did you receive money? It was actually very normal to have such doubts. Nowadays, it was common for domestic blockbusters to hold a premiere, inviting a large number of media and people in the circle to come and support them. Then, there would be a flood of good reviews. As the saying goes, people support people in the sedan chair, so everyone was used to it. Some time ago, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was very popular, so it was not surprising that people spent money to buy good reviews on the night before it was released. Some people ridiculed Meng Xiaotong on the blog, saying that he finally sold his moral integrity for a good price. In the face of such vicious ridicule, Meng Xiaotong didn't get angry to defend himself. He just showed 3 screenshots of online tickets on his blog, saying that after The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was officially released, he would take his family to the cinema to support it. Some people were surprised, some people questioned, some people ridiculed, and some people took the opportunity to attack. But for the vast number of Lu Chen's fans, these praises and comments undoubtedly gave them a shot of adrenaline, and the atmosphere in related posts, forums, and QQ groups became more enthusiastic. On the evening of the 30th, the online pre-sale of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer ended, and the box office sales reached 49.7 million, only 300,000 away from breaking the 50 million mark. On October 1st, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was released in more than 3,000 cinemas in China, and the screening rate was 32.50%. In China, the National Day screening period was ranked 3rd after the summer and New Year's screening period. So The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer couldn't outshine others, and it also had to face competition from many competitors. And among the movies released at the same time, the biggest threat to The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was undoubtedly the action blockbuster Ace Agent, produced by Superstar Pictures, which was also released on October 1st, and the screening rate was 43.77%, firmly crushing The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Superstar Pictures was a famous film company in Hollywood, with a long history and strong strength. It was also one of the first American film companies to enter the domestic market. Every year, there would be 2 or 3 blockbusters introduced into the domestic market, and they earn a lot of box office. Ace Agent had an investment of $170 million, and the cast was strong. The male and female lead had considerable appeal in the domestic market, and the intensity of the publicity was not weak at all. So it was natural that Ace Agent had more screening than The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. In fact, the screening rate of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was more than 30%, and it was also the result of Chun Fei Media's countless efforts. Because the box office of the martial arts films in the summer period failed badly, the cinema chain still had lingering fears. That was because Lu Chun, Chun Fei and Lu Gongxing's status were high enough, and coupled with the overwhelming publicity some time ago, under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be strange to give 10% screening. And whether or not they could keep this screening rate depended on the performance of the film. Once the audience's reputation was not good, then the cinema chain would quickly adjust, and there was no mercy to speak of. In front of the benefits of the box office, the cinema chain was very realistic. Whichever film had more people watching it, they would give it more screening. Other than The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent, there was also a domestic comedy film, a domestic urban romance film, and a Xiangjiang police and gangster film that took up the rest of the share. Compared to The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent, these 3 films didn't have a large cast, investment, or publicity. If there were no accidents, they wouldn't be a big threat. The real competition still depended on The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent. Aren't you worried at all? Beijing, Chun Fei Media's headquarters, in the general manager's office. Lu Shi looked at Lu Chun, who was playing Plants vs. Zombies on his tablet, and complained, A lot of people are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. The battle of the box office had already begun, and Lucy was in the headquarters, constantly paying attention to the screening of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. She had been feeling uneasy, but in the end, Lu Chun was just leisurely playing a game at this time. After setting up a new group of pea shooters and eliminating the last wave of zombies, Lu Chun put down the tablet in his hand, smiled, and said, "There's nothing to worry about. We've done what we should and could do. Now, it's up to the audience to decide. As for others wanting to see us make a fool of ourselves, let them watch. Let's see who can laugh in the end." She was convinced. "You're really ambitious." Lu Chun smiled and didn't say anything. Coming this far, he had already obtained countless things that he had dreamed of. Even if he failed, he didn't need to be afraid, because he had done his best and had no regrets. Chapter 844. It was October 1st, National Day. The whole country welcomed a 10-day golden holiday, and the happiest was undoubtedly the domestic tourism industry. The big cake worth hundreds of billions was really tempting, and it was really worth fighting for. However, for people living in the city, there were few people who chose to travel during the National Day holiday. There were naturally many reasons. For example, they were too tired from work, so they should have a good rest during the holiday instead of going out. Moreover, during the National Day, the tourist attractions were full, and it would be crowded if they went out. There were also people who didn't want to spend money. Nowadays, life was so stressful, especially for people living in big cities. The daily expenses were already hard enough, and they were reluctant to spend money on this. But they couldn't just lie at home and sleep every day during the 10-day holiday, right? Calling a few friends to go out for a meal, listening to music in a bar, or watching a movie in the cinema had become the choice of many people during the holiday. The domestic film market, because of the National Day holiday, ushered in a small peak after the summer vacation. And there were many movies in the cinema, among which the most eye-catching was undoubtedly the domestic martial arts film, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and the Hollywood action blockbuster Ace Agent. The promotion of these two movies was vigorous. Although there was no tit-for-tat competition, the fierce competition was inevitable. For many people, they would watch both movies. Anyway, the movie tickets were not very expensive now, and they could totally afford it. Naturally, there was no difficulty in choosing. But for another group of people, they would seriously choose what they liked, and they might only watch one movie during the whole holiday. Of course, they would watch the best one, and they would be careful not to waste their money. Then, it was really a problem for them to watch The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, or Ace Agent. First, Ace Agent, a Hollywood action blockbuster with a big cast of big stars and a fierce and explosive trailer. It was a typical popcorn American movie, and it was undoubtedly a good choice for pastime. But in recent years, Hollywood action movies showed a trend of decline. Now, the mainstream was dominated by manga, fantasy, science fiction, and animation. In the past, Hollywood's popular action scenes swept the domestic market, but now, the domestic audience was tired of watching them, and it was very difficult to have much interest. Of course, for a Hollywood movie like this with such a huge investment, even if the theme and plot were old-fashioned, the special effects alone would be worth the ticket price. It would not be too much of a scam. Looking at The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, it was also a blockbuster. Although it was a domestic blockbuster, the cast was undoubtedly very strong. Lu Chun, Chun Fer, Lu Gangsheng, Tan Hong, together with a group of old actors and new generation actors, was naturally attractive. Judging from the trailer, posters, and stills of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, it should be a sincere work, which was quite attractive. However, the problem was that the martial arts movies that were released during the summer had really hurt many audiences. They had originally come to support domestic movies and martial arts movies, hoping to see exciting new genres of movies, so they had bought tickets to enter the cinema. In the end, what the hell were those? Magical fantasy films with special effects, terrible plots, and celebrity shows that sold their faces. It was as deceptive as it could be. Watching such movies was a waste of hard-earned money. People could not care less about paying tens of yuan, but they could not feel that their intelligence and feelings were insulted when they paid. Therefore, the audience who had been fooled before had doubts about the smiling, proud wanderer. As for the trailer and the stills, they wouldn't believe it easily. There were so many movies where the trailer was wonderful, but the actual movie was terrible. In comparison, they would rather watch Hollywood blockbusters, which had no plot and special effects. At least it would not be too bad. Compared with these ordinary audiences who were wavering, Lu Chen's fans were undoubtedly much more determined. The fans of celebrities could be roughly divided into 5 types. First, there were brainless fans, which were often more extreme in their words, which were easy to be criticized by celebrities. Of course, there were also self-deprecating fans. Second, there were die-hard fans, which were the so-called iron rice. They were essentially very similar to brainless fans, but their willpower and actions were stronger than brainless fans, and their team spirit was very strong. The main force of a celebrity's fan support group was die-hard fans, which could be regarded as the backbone of the fan group. Then there were rational fans, which were actually the largest number of fans. Most fans of a real star were rational fans, who would not criticize their idol. They would support their idol's film and music works, but if their idol had any scandals, they would not unconditionally protect and support their idol like brainless fans and die-hard fans. There were also passerby fans, which could be regarded as the potential supplement of rational fans and die-hard fans. For many celebrities, how to attract a large number of passerby fans and then turn them into rational fans and die-hard fans was undoubtedly a very important job. Finally, there were haters. To put it bluntly, they were haters pretending to love a certain celebrity and using the celebrity's name to humiliate other celebrities to attract haters for this celebrity. Some of them were even high-end haters, which were the most troublesome. The number of Lu Chen's fans in Wei's blog had already exceeded 100 million, reaching an astonishing number of 120 million, which was the #1 fan list of Wei's blog. Of course, the number of fans in this blog was definitely fake, because many fans were sock puppets. Although he had never spent money to buy fans, according to the normal ratio, it was already very good if the number of really valuable fans could reach 20%. Even 20% was a very shocking number, which was basically divided into die-hard fans, rational fans, and passerby fans, which became a cornerstone of Lu Chen's support group. Lu Jiejun was the core representative of this group of fans. When the smiling, proud wanderer began to large-scale promotional leaflets, the fan support group with Lu Jiejun as the main force carried out continuous support activities, calling on the vast number of fans to support Lu Chen and to book the movie tickets of the smiling, proud wanderer. Nearly 50 million pre-sales results, most of which were created by them. On October 1st, this kind of support activities reached its peak. The fan group launched a large-scale movie-watching activity through a variety of online channels, such as blogs, forums, Tieba, QQ groups, etc., with the intention that the smiling, proud wanderer could make a good start on the first day of screening and even beat strong competitors. I have a ticket at 10 a.m., Hangzhou Shisha Cinema Hall 3. Who wants to go with me? The more the merrier. The coordinates are Shanghai. My girlfriend and I have booked tickets for the evening. Supporting Lu Chen is non-negotiable. Beijing Chang and Cinema. See you at 7 p.m., Hall 1. I'm in Shancheng. The popularity that Lu Chen had accumulated over the years was playing a huge role. At the same time, many people in the industry were also staring at the movie market on the first day of the National Day holiday, paying attention to the collision between the smiling, proud wanderer and ace agent. Chapter 845. Beijing, Ziqing Garden. It was midnight, but the light in the study room was still on, and the coffee on the table was no longer warm. Lu Chen leaned on the chair, holding the mouse in his right hand, staring at the computer screen in front of him, thinking. The time on the lower right corner of the screen showed that it was October 2nd, 0:25. Usually, unless it was necessary for work, Lu Chen wouldn't stay up late. Although his body was at its peak, he needed to develop good habits at a young age, or he would regret it in the future. But today was different. He was waiting for the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, to be released on the first day. Because there was a certain delay in the statistics of the National Cinema Ticket Sales System, the box office of October 1st would only be released after midnight the next day. It was almost midnight, and the phone beside the computer hadn't rung yet. But Luchon didn't lack the patience, and he wasn't lonely, because he had thousands of fans to accompany him. Although it was midnight, the main fan group of Luchon's support group was still very lively. A large number of fans were enthusiastically discussing The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, that had just been released. It was so wonderful. It was definitely worth the ticket price. I'm going to watch it again tomorrow. Ah, Luchon's Ling Hu Chong is so handsome, and Chun Fei-er's ancient costume is so beautiful. I love it so much. How do you think the martial arts fighting was filmed? Special effects? I can't see it at all. This is a real martial arts film. The previous ones were all bullshit. I like the theme song very much, but why wasn't it sung by Luchon? Theme song praise +1. These fans who were discussing in full swing probably didn't even think that their favorite idol was quietly lurking in the group, paying attention to their comments. Lu Jejun's main fan group had hundreds of QQ groups, and Luchon had a sock puppet in them. When he was free, he would log in to have a look and communicate with other fans as an ordinary fan, and he could get a lot of useful information from them. Sometimes, when Luchon learned about the questions that many fans were concerned about, he would answer them on his blog, thereby shortening the distance between him and his fans. When it came to his fans, Luchon didn't dare to say that he was the most important person among all the celebrities, but he never neglected them. He couldn't help but smile when he saw the fans' comments in the group chat. In order to shoot the Smiling, Proud Wanderer series, and for the Wuxia IP project, he had been preparing for nearly 2 years. He had invested hundreds of millions of yuan and put in countless efforts and painstaking efforts. What he wanted was to achieve a new peak in his life and career and to leave his real mark in this world. On a smaller scale, it was the recognition and love of the fans. No matter how the others mocked and ridiculed him, it didn't matter to Luchon at all. Whether the fans liked him or not was the key to success. Although the box office of the first day hadn't come out yet, the fans' reputation had exploded. So even if the box office of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer didn't reach the expected goal, it wouldn't be a failure. He could openly say that the movie he made was worthy of the movie tickets paid by his fans. The results haven't come out yet. A gentle and sweet voice came from behind, and then a pair of white jade-like arms gently wrapped around his neck. Luchon turned around and held the beauty in his arms and said, "It's not out yet. You're not sleeping?" Chun Fei, who was wearing pink pajamas, whispered, "I can't sleep without you." Although she was a few years older than Luchon, she was still as lovely as a young girl in Luchon's arms. Luchon smiled. "It should be out soon. Ring, ring, ring." As soon as he finished speaking, the phone on the table suddenly rang, which startled both of them. Luchon was stupefied and immediately reacted. He reached out and grabbed his cell phone. "Hello." It was Lu Shi who called him. At this moment, Lu Shi was at the headquarters of Qinfei Media. She cared about the box office of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer on the first day as much as Luchon, and even more. On the phone, her voice was very cheerful. "The box office is out 49. 2 million. Nearly 50 million on the first day." Luchon couldn't help clenching his fist and waving it hard. Although the domestic movie market was huge and the box office was also one of the best in the world, there were many movies with a box office of over 100 million on the first day. 50 million was not a particularly outstanding result, but it was really not easy for the Sword of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer to get such a result. It had to know that it faced strong competition from Hollywood action blockbusters. The production cost of Ace Agent was several times that of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and the number of showtimes it received was also much higher. The most important thing was that because of the failure of several similar martial arts blockbusters in the summer, it brought a bad reputation in the market. It was gratifying that Sword of Mount Hua could get a good start under such circumstances. This also proved the necessity of Chun Fei Media to spend tens of millions on publicity. Lu Chun suppressed his excitement and asked, "Then how much is the box office of Ace Agent?" He was also concerned about the situation of his opponent. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. The battle of the box office had just begun. Lu Shi answered, "It's higher than ours, a little more than 67 million. It was normal to be higher, but it was less than 20 million, which was about the same as the actual number of showtimes." Lu Chan was confident and said, "Well, we have to pay more attention to the publicity. We have to invest all the money we need. We can't save it." With a good start, he naturally had to strike while the iron was hot. He was very confident about the smiling, proud wanderer, but if he wanted to get more recognition from the audience and attract them to buy tickets, he couldn't stop investing in the publicity. It was like rolling a snowball. At the beginning, he had to push it hard. When the snowball got bigger and bigger, he could rely on inertia to roll it down, and it would get bigger and bigger. The snowball of the smiling, proud wanderer had just started to roll. "Don't worry, I have already arranged the follow-up publicity," Lu Shi said. "You should rest early. Don't stay up late. You still have to participate in the publicity tomorrow." Lu Chen smiled and said, "I know. You should rest early too." After ending the call with his sister, Lu Chen hugged Chun Fei and kissed her. "It's done. Let's kiss." Chun Fei giggled and turned her head away. "You haven't brushed your teeth yet." Lu Chen smiled and kissed Chun Fei on the cheek, then carried her and rushed to the bedroom. It was time to celebrate. Chapter 846. Beijing, Great Wall Guild Hall. The Great Wall Guild Hall was a special place in Beijing where more than half of the domestic entertainment circle gathered. This club was one of the earliest private clubs in the country, but it was basically not open to the public. It adopted an invitation-only membership system, and only those who were invited were qualified to become members. Most of the people invited were the upper class in the entertainment, media, and art circles, as well as celebrities and stars. For the famous people in the Beijing entertainment circle, the membership of the Great Wall Guild Hall was their proof of identity. The Great Wall Guild Hall was also an excellent place for them to socialize, and the topics they talked about were related to the current film and entertainment industry. 49. 2 million. In a private room of the Great Wall Guild Hall, a group of people were drinking tea and chatting. Someone soon mentioned the first song of the Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, which had just been released yesterday. The box office on the first day inevitably aroused everyone's interest. This group of people included the directors of film companies, directors of entertainment agencies, popular film stars, well-known freelancers, and even executives in the IT industry. Lu Xingda, the general manager of Wanhao Pictures, was one of them. Hearing the first-day box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, he couldn't help but raise his thick eyebrows, and a trace of haze flashed in his eyes. As a person in the entertainment circle and a person of high status, Lu Xingda certainly knew that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was officially released yesterday, but he really didn't want to pay attention to it. Because as a martial arts film, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer easily reminded him of his big failure a few months ago. Big Lu Xingda promoted the project of Young Jianghu, the first martial arts film in the country, which cost nearly 300 million to produce and advertise. The box office in the end barely exceeded 400 million. There was no hope for him to make a profit, which made him lose face in the entertainment circle. Although Young Pugilistic World didn't suffer a lot of losses because of the Wanhao cinemas, it was much better than the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants and Pugilistic World Wanderer. However, it still poured a bucket of cold water on the ambitious Lu Xingda. The failure of the film had affected his authority in Wanhao Pictures, and he hadn't fully recovered yet. It was also a scar in his heart that couldn't be touched. But no matter how unwilling Lu Xingda was, he couldn't stop others from talking about it. After all, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was absolutely inescapable. God knew how many people in the entertainment circle were watching it. Less than 50 million? The young man sitting next to Lu Xingda sneered and said, It's good enough that Chunfei Media can recover the cost. If I were Liu Chun, I would interrupt the shooting of the next two films. Otherwise, the more I shoot, the more I will lose. This young man was the CEO of a new media company. He was a family friend of Liu Xingda. The two sides had a deep cooperative relationship. He knew very well what Liu Xingda was thinking at this moment. For a domestic movie, a box office of nearly 50 million on the first day was already very good, but the smiling, proud wanderer had invested hundreds of millions, spent tens of millions on promotion, plus the appeal of Liu Chun and other superstars. Such a result could be said to be a failure. Jianghu film Jianghu movie had made Jianghu Circle Office, which famous, but film Jianghu Comement of Heroes fan had mo time. Jianghu of Liu, who made film of Heroes first box was Liu. Young World Jianghu. World. The first day's box office earnings of 49.2 million was the best proof. Someone immediately echoed, yeah, the smiling, proud wanderer is competing against Superstar Pictures action blockbuster. I think Liu Chun is going to suffer a big loss this time. I heard that the total budget he set for the smiling, proud wanderer trilogy is 500 million, and most of the funds came from Chunfei Media. Everyone here was basically in the entertainment circle, and they were well informed. They had a good understanding of the smiling, proud wanderer, so they were able to talk about it. Liu Xingda sighed. Jianghu is really not a good theme. Even I was fooled. Now that I think about it, I was too impulsive. I thought I could create a new genre for domestic movies. Innovation is not that easy. He was exposing his own shortcomings. But with the smiling, proud wanderer as a foil, he didn't feel much pressure. He even felt lucky. At least Jianghu's circle didn't lose too much money. Yeah, everyone nodded. Speaking of domestic movies, there were three main types of popular movies: youth idol movies, comedy movies, and IP derivative movies. Jianghu movies could also be included in the category of IP derivative movies. Several movies were adapted from popular Jianghu novels, but they were definitely new genres, so the risk was relatively high. The road to innovation was never easy. Even Hollywood wouldn't easily try new genres, especially blockbusters with high investment. For example, the action movie Ace Agent was completely a product of Hollywood's entertainment assembly line. It was the most typical popcorn movie, and it easily crushed the smiling, proud wanderer in the box office. The smiling, proud wanderer was released on National Day, which was relatively less competitive. It still couldn't avoid the impact from Hollywood movies, so its failure was almost foreseeable. No one can always succeed, the young CEO of the new media company said. It's time to break Liu Chun's legend of invincibility. I just hope he won't lose too badly this time. After all, he is still very talented. Anyone could hear the schadenfreude in his tone, and those who knew the inside story knew that this new media company once wanted to cooperate with Chunfei Media, but they were rejected by the latter, so everyone understood. But he also said what many people were thinking, and some of them smiled knowingly. Yes, no one could always succeed, and Liu Chun was no exception. At this time, someone asked, "Speaking of which, who here has seen this movie?" The private room suddenly became silent, and everyone looked at each other. There were many small circles in the pan-entertainment circle. Their circle was different from the circle of Chunfei Media, so no one had attended the premiere of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and they didn't go to the cinema yesterday. It was more or less embarrassing, but soon someone changed the topic, and the atmosphere became lively again. In fact, it didn't matter whether they watched it or not. Could this movie turn the world upside down? Liu Xingda didn't believe it, and neither did the others. Chapter 847. On the 1st of October, the first song of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, sort of Mount Hua, was released nationwide, and the box office on the first day was 49.2 million. This result didn't cause much reaction in the industry, because The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had about 50 million in advance, so it was normal for the box office to be around 50 million on the first day. It wasn't worth making a fuss about. Many people were watching indifferently, waiting to see if The Proud Wanderer could make back its investment under the strong impact of the Ace Agent, and whether it would become Liu Chen's first failure. On the 2nd of October, The Proud Wanderer had 72 million in box office, which increased by more than 8 million, and the total box office broke 100 million. The Ace Agent increased at the same time, and the box office of 77 million was still suppressing The Proud Wanderer. A domestic blockbuster and a Hollywood blockbuster basically dominated this year's National Day period, and the other domestic movies that were released at the same time could only eat the leftovers, and they didn't have much competition at all. In today's movie market, it was normal for big productions and big investments. The production cost of a domestic movie was easily over 100 million, and most of it was eaten up by the actors' pay. It was basically difficult for a low-budget movie to succeed, and the occasional exception could only be regarded as a miracle. For example, The Proud Wanderer had an investment of nearly 150 million, and the publicity cost was about 50 million, so the total cost was more than 200 million. It was considered a medium level among domestic blockbusters, and in recent years, there were many big productions with a budget of 400 to 500 million. But compared to The Ace Agent, it paled in comparison. So although there had been a few domestic blockbusters that beat Hollywood blockbusters in the domestic box office, and even occupied the top of the box office rankings, but overall, facing the impact of Hollywood blockbusters, domestic blockbusters weren't as bad as 10 years ago, and now they were still at a disadvantage. This was the main reason why many people in the film industry didn't think The Proud Wanderer was an important film. In their opinion, there wasn't much difference between a martial arts movie and an action movie, and the only difference was the era and background. How could it compete with the special effects of Hollywood? Some people asserted that when the fans of Liu Chen and the other actors used up the box office, The Proud Wanderer would definitely face a big drop in the box office, and it would be lucky if it could recover its investment. However, the reality gave all the people who criticized The Proud Wanderer a heavy slap in the face. On the third day of a National Day holiday, The Proud Wanderer's box office soared to more than 75 million, and the increase was shocking. In stark contrast, Ace Agent fell to 28 million. The two movies happened to be reversed today and yesterday, which shocked countless people in the industry. The Proud Wanderer completed a beautiful counterattack. Although it was behind its opponent in the screening schedule, the box office had crushed Ace Agent. In just 3 days, many people were confused. While they searched for answers through various channels, they also bought tickets to watch the movie. They wanted to see with their own eyes what kind of magic this movie had. The box office could actually go against the trend in a single day. He must have bought the box office. In the general manager's office of Wanhao Pictures, Liu Xingda, who was sitting on the boss's chair, slammed the mouse in his hand and said angrily, "People nowadays specialize in these unscrupulous ways. This is how they corrupt the atmosphere in the industry." Buying box office sales had long been an open secret in the film industry, and it was even an unspoken rule. Moreover, it had a long history, and now it was getting bigger and bigger. Some film companies, in order to increase their performance and to win the title of the box office champion, would spend money at all costs to increase the box office sales. It could be said that they were full of tricks. Many netizens had found that some movies were often full at midnight, and the occupancy rate reached 100%. There were also audiences who bought tickets and found that there were not many seats left. In the end, when they entered, they found that they had booked the whole theater, and no one else came in until the end. Some people in the industry had publicly said that all the domestic movies that broke 100 million on the first day had bought box office sales. Some even spent 50 or 60 million to achieve the goal of breaking 100 million. Buying box office sales had already become a complete gray industry chain, and the actual cost was not too high. The most typical example was 15 years ago, a domestic movie's box office reached 7 billion, which created the highest box office record in the country. It caused a great sensation and was publicized to everyone. But in fact, the real box office of the movie was at most half. Not only did they buy box office sales, but they also stole box office sales. It was repeatedly exposed, but it was still as stable as Mount Tai, relying on the strong background of the producer. Although the relevant departments had carried out a crackdown on these undesirable phenomena, the focus of the crackdown was more on stealing box office sales. As for buying box office sales, they basically turn a blind eye. So when Liu Xingda saw that the box office of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer actually surpassed that of Ace Agent, his first thought was that Xinfei Media had bought box office sales. Otherwise, it would be impossible. The assistant standing next to him looked at his boss, and he was quite speechless. Manager Liu actually scolded others for doing dishonest things with a righteous face. When Wanhao Pictures' Young Wanderer opened on the first day, it bought box office sales of 45 million, or else it would not have broken 100 million. The next day, it bought another 25 million, and it added up to a box office sales of 70 million. Of course, he was complaining in his heart, but on the surface, he agreed with it and said, "Yes, they must have bought box office sales." Liu Xingda picked up his phone angrily and made a few calls. "Lao Zhu, I'm Liu Xingda. I have something to ask you. Is this CEO Gao?" "I'm Liu Xingda from Wanhao. I want to ask you about something." After spending more than half an hour, he finally threw his slightly hot phone on the table. His face was so gloomy that it seemed like water could be squeezed out of it, and the atmosphere in the office dropped quite a bit. The assistant lowered his head and did not even dare to breathe loudly, for fear that he would be caught in the crossfire. From the conversation between Liu Xingda and others, he heard some clues. Xinfei Media actually did not buy box office sales for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which meant that the box office sales of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was completely real, and there was no fake news. This was really unbelievable. Such a shocking trend meant that in the next few days, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would have a huge box office sales. There would be no problem in recovering the cost, and it could even achieve a large profit. Compared to Wanhao Pictures' failure in Young Wanderer, one could imagine Liu Xingda's mood at the moment. What the assistant didn't know was that what really embarrassed Liu Xingda was the ridicule he made towards Liu Chun, Xinfei Media, and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer in the Great Wall Guild Hall a few days ago. Now that he thought about it, he made a joke out of himself by laughing at others. Chapter 848. Bang! A cork inlaid with gold foil flew up and hit the ceiling under the strong internal pressure. Yeah! Cheers filled with joy sounded in the headquarters of Xinfei Media. In the newly decorated conference room, colorful balloons were hanging, and a 7-layer cake was placed in the center. On the projection screen on the wall, the words celebrating the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer broke 100 million in a single day were very eye-catching. It also revealed the theme of the celebration. As the most important movie project of Xinfei Media, The Sword of the Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was released nationwide on October 1st. The box office on the first day was 49.2 million. Then it climbed higher and higher with a lot of negative comments. It completed an incredible miracle. Yesterday, October 5th, the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer successfully broke 100 million and reached 107 million. The accumulated box office of this martial arts blockbuster reached 377 million, which was not far from the cost line. If everything went well, it would break even with today's box office. Under the suggestion of Liu Chun, Xinfei Media held an internal celebration today so that all the employees could share the joy of this hard-won success. The conference room was packed with people. All the employees who could come were there, and everyone's faces were full of smiles. Recently, Xinfei Media had been under a lot of pressure. The success or failure of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer greatly affected the company's operation this year, and all kinds of public opinions from the industry also had a certain impact on the employees, especially those who directly participated in the production of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. As the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer broke 100 million in a single day. All the pressure and worries disappeared. Glasses of champagne were poured into wine glasses, and pieces of fragrant and sweet cake were cut out. Although this celebration was not grand, the atmosphere was definitely the best. Clap, clap. She clapped her hands and said, "Next, let's welcome Director Liu to say a few words." Great. Everyone immediately applauded and cheered loudly. All eyes were focused on Liu Chun. At this moment, from the manager of the company to the most ordinary clerk, they all had a kind of pride from the bottom of their hearts. Because in the company they worked for, there was a legendary person. They had never failed when they followed Liu Chun. Liu Chun smiled and raised his hand. The conference room instantly quietened down. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and fruitful work during this period of time. Without you, this movie would not have succeeded. Thank you for your hard work." After that, Liu Chun bowed deeply to everyone. Liu Chun's gratitude was not hypocritical. It was impossible for him to complete the smiling, proud wanderer by himself. For the sake of the shooting, production, and promotion of the movie, all the employees were working hard. They had no complaints, even if they worked overtime. Many people did not leave their names at the end of the movie, but they still made a contribution. After a moment of silence, there was a sudden burst of applause. A few sensitive female employees even had red eyes. Liu Chun stood up and said with a smile, "I won't say anything else. This month, all the employees will be rewarded with an extra 2-month salary. When the box office of the smiling, proud martial world breaks 1 billion, we will have a real celebration party. At that time, everyone could try their luck at the lucky draw." While this time the applause was so loud that it almost blew the roof off. Some employees shouted, "Long live Boss Liu." After all was said and done, the best way to motivate people was to increase their salary and bonuses. The average salary of the employees of Chun Fei Media was above average in the industry. Adding an extra 2-month salary was definitely a big benefit. And there would be a real celebration party later. At that time, the prize for the lucky draw would definitely not be a small thing. The benefits would come one after another. As for the problem of breaking 1 billion in the box office of the smiling, proud martial world, was it still a problem? It was close to 400 million in 5 days, and it was still increasing against the trend. Although it could not keep increasing indefinitely, there were still more than 20 days to go. It would be easy to break 1 billion. 1.5 to 2 billion was the possible limit. The atmosphere in the conference room reached its peak. Liu Chun, Chun Fei-er, and Liu Shi looked at each other and smiled, sharing the joy with everyone. On October 6th, the smiling, proud martial world had a one-day box office of 135 million. On October 7th, it fell to 118 million. Although the miracle of the growth against the trend ended on the 7th day, the total box office of the smiling, proud martial world had accumulated 630 million in the first week. Big exceeded the cost of 500 million. It was inevitable that it would make a big profit. At the same time, the smiling, the proud wanderer completely crushed the Hollywood action blockbuster Ace Agent, which was released at the same time in terms of box office and total box office. The latter's box office had fallen to less than 30 million. Although it had an advantage at the beginning of the movie, now it was completely defeated. Correspondingly, the smiling, proud martial world screening rate was rising. On the 7th day, it reached 75%. It was less than 7% away from the 70% screening rate of the phenomenal movie. Big squeezed the competition again. Regarding this, the industry was temporarily speechless. But on the internet, the smiling, proud martial world's reputation was still fermenting and spreading. The most wonderful domestic blockbuster in the past 10 years completely defeated the Hollywood action blockbuster. Domestic martial arts movies are the first in history. The smiling, proud martial world beat Ace Agent with a box office of 630 million in the first week. This is a real martial arts movie. On the largest domestic movie community website, Rotten Tomatoes, the smiling, proud martial world won more than 200,000 fresh tomatoes. The number of Rotten Tomatoes was less than 5,000, and the freshness was 98%. On Wave's blog, the movie was rated 4.5 stars. There were more than 2 million comments, and among them, 5 stars accounted for 45%. On Film and Shadow website, it was rated 9.56. On these film review websites, there were domestic movies with higher scores than The Smiling, Proud Martial World, but they were all based on a small number of comments. They were not at the same level as The Smiling, Proud Martial World. From this, it could be seen how good the reputation of The Smiling, Proud Martial World was. Reputation was the market. Without buying the box office, it was completely reasonable for The Smiling, Proud Martial World to break 100 million in a single day. Just the huge box office was not so amazing. The peripheral sales of The Smiling, Proud Martial World also showed a hot trend. It had accumulated more than 100 million in 7 days. It was about to break the record of a Chinese ghost story. When did the peripheral sales of domestic movies become so good? They didn't believe it. They didn't dare to believe it. They didn't want to believe it. So some people who were not convinced decided to go to the cinema to watch it in person. Chapter 849. It took Huafei 2 minutes to figure out how to get the movie tickets that he had ordered online from the machine. It was a new experience for his idol. Before, he didn't need to buy a ticket to watch a movie, or he had an assistant to do it for him. When he was a teenager, there was no such thing as an automatic ticket machine. Today, Huafei came to watch a movie in the capital. He sneaked out without his assistant, and he didn't want others to find out what he was doing. Therefore, he wore a mask and glasses, and chose a time when there were fewer people in the afternoon. There were only a few minutes left before the movie started. Huafei took the ticket, passed through the gate, and entered the movie hall. What surprised him was that at such an unpopular time, the theater with more than 200 seats had an occupancy rate of more than 50%. Basically, all the good seats were occupied, and many of them were girls. Huafei's seat was number 11 in the 7th row. When he found a seat, 2 girls next to him glanced at him curiously. They probably felt that he looked weird with a mask and glasses on. Huafei really wanted to take off his disguise to see their reaction, but he held back his impulse when he thought of the purpose of sneaking out today. 2 minutes later, more people came in, and the number of seats was increased to about 65%. Although Huafei was unhappy, he had to admit that the amazing box office result of the movie was real. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people supporting it. From the discussions of the audience, he could tell that they didn't come here with free tickets. They were real audience members and Lu Chen's fans. That's right. Huafei came to watch The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, which had been on the air for 9 days. As of yesterday, the total box office of the movie had exceeded 700 million yuan. It was almost 1 billion yuan. As the male lead of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, the first domestic martial arts blockbuster released by Wanhao Pictures during the summer, Huafei had been disturbed by the news about The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. The box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer exceeded 100 million yuan in a single day. The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer beat Hollywood blockbuster. The peripheral sales of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer reached a new high. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Although it had been a few months, Huafei was still very unhappy. The investment of Young Jianghu was more than that of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. It had been widely promoted, and it was the first wuxia blockbuster. The content was adapted from a popular novel. It should have been a hit, but it turned out that it didn't even recover its cost. And because of this movie, he was ridiculed by many people as a box office poison. He didn't receive any decent movie engagements for a few months, and even his popularity dropped a lot. Seeing that The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman was so popular, Huafei didn't want to admit defeat. Therefore, he wanted to see for himself whether the movie had some special magic that could create a miracle when the wuxia blockbusters had a bad reputation. He also wanted to see if Lu Chen was really stronger than him. The lights in the cinema slowly dimmed, and the title appeared on the screen. The movie had officially begun. Raphael took off his glasses and leaned back in his seat. He looked at the screen in front of him with a critical gaze. He was like a strict film critic. The light and shadow intertwined, and the story slowly unfolded. Raphael had read the entire novel of The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman, so he was familiar with the plot in the book. However, the movie was obviously different from the novel. The content that could be shown in 2 hours was always limited. Compared to the millions of words in the original novel, the importance of the adaptation of the script was undeniable. Young Jiang-hu made a mistake in this aspect and was criticized by the fans of the novel for not making any changes. It was also one of the main reasons why the box office was not good. Liu Chun is so handsome. Raphael frowned when he heard the soft voice from the seat next to him. However, the male lead on the screen was indeed very handsome, and his clothes and accessories were very old-fashioned. It didn't make people feel that he was out of character. When Raphael compared his slightly exaggerated appearance in Young World, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his face. It was an awkward feeling. Fortunately, the latter part of the story attracted his attention, so he didn't fall into an embarrassing thought. Then, laughter, exclamations, and even applause appeared as the story progressed, and the nitpicking in Raphael's eyes turned into enlightenment. Although he had his own opinions, Raphael had to admit that Liu Chen's The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman was much more exciting than his young Jiang-hu. It was too exciting, especially the fighting scenes, the use of the camera and the design of the movements, all gave people a strong sense of beauty, which made people excited and intoxicated. Raphael couldn't figure out how some of the scenes were shot. The special effects were definitely at the top level of Hollywood, which were exquisite and original. Raphael felt embarrassed when he thought of the fighting scenes in Young Jiang-hu. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. No wonder people said that The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman was a real wuxia film. In addition to the exciting fighting scenes, the story was also smooth and complete. Coupled with the magnificent or picturesque background, it actually looked like an epic movie. When the ending song, which was the theme song of The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman, played, Raphael still wanted to watch more. Therefore, when he left the cinema, he couldn't describe the feeling in his heart with words. The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman was excellent, and it made him understand what a real wuxia film was like. It was definitely not a lousy fantasy film with special effects. In this film, Liu Chun played many roles, including the leading actor, the action director, the scriptwriter, and the arranger. Raphael could imagine how disappointed he was. Compared to Liu Chun, he was lagging behind in all aspects. Before Raphael walked out of the cinema, he heard a noise from a shop on the side of the hall, which attracted his attention again. The accessories of The Smiling, The Proud Swordsman were on sale there. There were handmade dolls, original albums, t-shirts, toys, stationery, phone cases. There were a lot of customers in front of the dazzling products. Raphael stopped and started walking again. He didn't want to stay here any longer because he was afraid that his jealousy would devour him. Chapter 850. Since the birth of the movie, this entertainment industry has reached a huge scale today. In 2016, the global box office was $45 billion, but this was only a part of the movie industry. The overall scale of the industry exceeded $200 billion, and it maintained a continuous growth trend. The American film industry, represented by Hollywood, accounted for more than half of the share. In the past 10 years, the domestic film industry had flourished, and the scale of the market was getting larger and larger. The box office was no longer inferior to the United States, and domestic films were no longer defeated by Hollywood films. They had fought for a considerable piece of the cake. But in many aspects, there was still a huge gap between domestic films and Hollywood blockbusters. The most typical one was undoubtedly the movie peripherals. Many Hollywood films, especially the mangas, only accounted for 15 to 25% of the total revenue, and most of the value was generated by the peripherals, brand licensing, and copyright transfer. The profits were amazing. For example, the net profit of the movie peripherals could reach 50 to 60%, much more than the share of the box office. However, domestic films had not made any achievements in this area for a long time. Although many films had launched some peripherals, the sales were often poor. Over time, domestic film companies basically gave up in this area. The reason for this was very complicated, and this phenomenon was broken by a Chinese ghost story last year. A Chinese ghost story's peripherals sold more than 100 million yuan. At that time, it caused an earthquake in the industry, and many people cast their eyes on it. Young Pugilistic World, which was released in the summer, launched a lot of peripherals. As a result, the movie's box office was a fiasco, and the audience's reputation was very bad. Even these peripherals were accumulated in the warehouse, and in the end, they were sold at a loss. To everyone's surprise, the first part of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World, produced by Qinfei Media, not only spent tens of millions of yuan on publicity, but also invested a huge amount of money on the peripherals. On the first day of release, it appeared in the stores of major cinemas. Many people in the industry thought that Liu Chan was dizzy by the success of a Chinese ghost story. In the case that the reputation of the martial arts film had been ruined, he still dared to spend money on peripherals. It was simply throwing money into the water. However, the truth slapped these people hard in the face. The peripheral sales of the smiling, proud, pugilistic world soared with the growth of the box office. It only took 8 days to break the record of a Chinese ghost story. Among the peripherals of the smiling, proud, pugilistic world, the best-selling one was the mobile phone case. A total of 1.5 million were sold. According to the average price of 28 yuan per phone, of which, of course, they had achieved sales of 42 million. Everyone knew that the production cost of products like the mobile phone case was very low. Even with the distribution to the surrounding stores, Qinfei Media could still make at least 30 million. Liu of media of. First, we must. Of in a private club in the capital. When Li Mushi asked this question to Liu Chan curiously, his answer was very simple. Without confidence, how can one succeed? In terms of peripherals, domestic movies had never been confident because there were too many examples of failure, which led to the production company not daring to invest in this area, nor did they attach importance to it. The habit of domestic movie people was that the peripherals of movies belonged to Hollywood blockbusters. It was enough for domestic peripherals to be familiar, and over time, everyone got used to it. But Liu Chan thought differently. He attached great importance to the peripherals of movies and was willing to invest in it. For example, for the design of the peripherals, he hired the best design team in the country, and the processing and manufacturing were also outsourced to the relevant company with first-class technical level. He would never make a shoddy product to cheat money. For example, for figurines, there was a method that cost a few dollars, a craftsmanship that cost dozens of dollars, and a cost of hundreds of dollars was not uncommon, and the quantity of production was also very important. Liu Chan was willing and dared to spend money. So whether it was a Chinese ghost story or the smiling, proud wanderer, the quality of the peripherals launched was comparable to that of the peripherals of Hollywood blockbusters. In addition, the quantity of one order was large enough, and the cost was reduced, so they were much better than the goods of the same industry in the country. For example, a phone case that cost $28 was made of the best plastic material, non-toxic and environmentally friendly, and the feeling was first class. The printing used the most advanced technology, which could ensure that the pattern would not fade for 5 years. Although the cost was very high, Qinfei Media ordered 5 million at one time, so naturally the cost was diluted. And most of the people who were willing to spend money on peripherals were real fans. But even if they were real fans, they were not easy to fool. They could naturally tell whether a product was made with care or not. Therefore, the big sale of peripherals of the smiling, proud wanderer was not due to luck. First of all, it was based on Liu Chan's confidence in the box office of the movie. Daring to invest, had the corresponding return. Other film companies might not have the courage to do so. The peripheral sales have exceeded 100 million, plus the box office is almost 1 billion. Although Li Mushi was born in a big family and held a company listed on NASDAQ in her hand. She couldn't help but feel jealous. Plus brand licensing and so on. It will eventually be $2 billion, 10 times the output. It's just a movie. I want to start a movie company. Chunfair, he said with a smile. Sister Mushy, your online crowdfunding is no worse than any domestic film company. Lee Mushy shook her head and said, the market value may be comparable, but the profit is really not good. The competition is too big. After the successful listing of the online crowdfunding on NASDAQ, similar website companies sprang up like bamboo shoots after a rain. Although the former occupied more than half of the market share, the competitive pressure was also great. The result of fierce competition was the decline of profits. And in order to ensure the market share, the investment could not be less, so the profit was really not as good as that of Chunfei Media. After spitting out the bitterness, Li Mushi's beautiful eyes turned and fell on Lu Chen's face. She said, Boss Lu, you are a shareholder of the online crowdfunding. You can't just take dividends and do nothing, can you? Hurry up and think of something new. Lu Chen spread out his hands and said, what new tricks can I have? I have long given up. Li Mushi was unreasonable. That won't do. Don't you have a lot of ideas? Think of a new industry idea that can go on the market, and then I will let you go today. Lu Chen was speechless. Did she really think he was an omnipotent god? However, he did have some ideas. Chapter 851. When Li Mushi first met Lu Chen, she didn't think much of Lu Chen. She was talented and naturally proud. The only man she admired was her father. Even her elder brother Li Murong was nothing in her eyes. As for her younger brother Li Mubai, he was a completely immature kid. Lu Chen, who was regarded as a friend by Li Mubai, at first, she regarded him as the kind of person who was trying to curry favor with others. The children of the Li family have seen too many similar people in their growth. However, after a period of contact, Li Mushi's impression of Lu Chen has changed dramatically, especially the genius creativity of the online crowdfunding model. Although she has never admitted it, she was convinced in her heart. She was able to control a company listed on NASDAQ and become one of the most outstanding figures of the younger generation in Beijing Circle, which was also based on the foundation created by Lu Chen. If it was only online crowdfunding, Li Mushi would not be so convinced by Lu Chen. Putting aside Lu Chen's talent in music and acting, his other company, Happy Entertainment, was also doing well in China. First, he created Happy Farm, which caused a craze of stealing vegetables, and then sold it to QQ Games at a sky-high price. Now Happy Entertainment has launched mobile games such as Plants vs. Zombies, Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja, and so on. Each of these games has sold well, and it has become the most watched new game company in the industry. It is said that Happy Entertainment will enter the most profitable online games on a large scale and is developing an online game based on the proud, smiling wanderer. As far as Li Mushi knows, these shining game ideas were all created by Lu Chen, and Lu Chen still holds at least 80% of Happy Entertainment shares and has not accepted a penny of external venture capital. Although Happy Entertainment is not listed, its valuation in the industry is at least $5 billion. If the new online game The Proud, Smiling Wanderer can be successful, it can easily break $10 billion. Lu Chen's wealth can be imagined. Li Mushi regretted not investing in Happy Entertainment in the beginning. If she wanted to invest in Happy Entertainment back then, she believed that Lu Chen wouldn't have rejected her. Now, she would be getting a return of 100 times the investment. Li Mushi doesn't think much about the past. She wants to grasp the present. So she takes advantage of the conversation to knock Lu Chen to see if she can knock out golden ideas, such as crowdfunding and Happy Farm from Lu Chen. It didn't matter if he couldn't knock it out, but if he did, he would make a huge profit. Of course, she wasn't too serious. She was more or less joking, and it was a half-truth. It didn't matter if she was rejected by Lu Chen, but when she saw Lu Chen's thoughtful expression, Li Mushi's mind suddenly surged with countless crazy ideas. She stared at Lu Chen with glowing eyes, and her pretty face flushed with excitement. Tell me quickly, I know you have the goods. Li Mushi licked her lips, pulled Chun Fei and said, I won't let you suffer a loss. I will pay for all the investment money. I only want 60% of the shares. I will give 20% to Lu Shi and 20% to this person. How about it? She doesn't lack money now, but she lacks business ideas to take her career to the next level. I don't even have 1% of the shares. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but Li Mushi's offer was very generous. She just took out a creative idea and gave 40% of the shares. It was really rare in today's era where capital was king. It could even be said to violate the basic business principles. But on the other hand, Lu Chun doesn't lack money either. He has the capital to turn his ideas into reality. Holding 100% of the shares in his hands is not a big deal. But for Lu Chun now, money is just a number. It doesn't matter how much it is, and his interest has never been in business. Li Mushi obviously knows that, so she put forward such a special condition. Lu Shi 20%, Chun Fei 20%. She can really think of it. Chun Fei was shocked and said, I don't want... Are you stupid? Li Mushi rolled her eyes and said, we women need to be independent and self-reliant. We can't rely on men. This new company will be played by the three of us together, and the money we earn will be our own money. It doesn't matter if he is there or not. Lu Shi applauded and said with a smile, that's right. Li Mushi was proud and said to Lu Chun, what else do you want to say? In the face of this female rogue, Lu Chun could only surrender. Okay, whatever you say. Li Mushi made a victory sign to Lu Shi. Lu Shi ignored her and asked Lu Chun curiously, what do you think? Her sister also can't understand her brother. She has never seen Lu Chun so smart since he was a child. How can he have so many creative ideas in his head? Lu Chun didn't answer directly, but asked Li Mushi, do you know public bicycles? Public bicycles? Li Mushi nodded doubtfully. Yes, they can rent bicycles with citizen cards. There are also bicycles abroad. Lu Chun asked again, do you know what the disadvantages of public bicycles are? This really made Li Mushi speechless. She has never ridden a bicycle before. Lu Shi blinked and said, if you want to talk about disadvantages, it is inconvenient to find and return bicycles. The number of bicycles is limited. In addition, the deposit is quite high. Public bicycles are not something new. She used to ride public bicycles when she worked a few years ago. By the way, Lu Chun said with a smile, my idea is to target public bicycles. I call it shared bicycles. There is no need for bicycles. Shared bicycles can be borrowed and returned at any time. There is no limit to the area and location. The special lock has built-in satellite positioning system and kinetic energy rechargeable battery. It is unlocked and charged through app software. In terms of deposit and payment, we can cooperate with third-party electronic payment. At the same time, with the help of their credit scoring system, we can bundle the credit score after registration. As long as the score is up to standard, we can ride it without a deposit. At that time, we can order a large number of exclusive bicycles at one time and put them in intensive distribution in major cities across the country. We can quickly occupy the market. In addition to domestic and foreign markets, it is also promising. Of course, we first need to register the commercial creative copyright. Lu Chun spoke with fervor and assurance. The more Li Mushi listened, the brighter her eyes became. Although she didn't know much about public bicycles, she knew that this green urban travel method has a considerable number of users, whether in China or abroad, and it has the support of the government. The shared bicycles proposed by Lu Chun is a commercial creation based on public bicycles. It makes up for the shortcomings of public bicycles and opens up a market that other capital has not yet set foot in. The potential of this market, intuition told Li Mushi that she may have dug up another gold mine. Chapter 852. Li Mushi, who graduated from Wharton Business School, was far superior to ordinary people in both IQ and business sense. What she lacked was inspiration. Once she was enlightened by Lu Chun, the shrewdness in her bones suddenly burst out. I want this idea. Li Mushi's eyes flashed with an intimidating light. Without any hesitation, she said, "You can name your conditions." What she said to Lu Chun before was just a joke. How could a project with an investment of hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars be taken lightly? Although she got Lu Chen's idea and could completely leave the latter and work alone, Miss Li was not such a bad person. Lu Chun said with a smile, "You've just said the conditions. The three of you can discuss the specific terms. I won't participate." "You really don't want to be a shareholder?" Li Mushi was very surprised. She knew very well how much profit this project would bring if it was successful. Now the new energy waves were in the ascendant, and the concept of green and environmental protection had long been deeply rooted in people's hearts. A project like bike sharing was simply in line with the trend of the times and had great development potential. However, Lu Chun threw it to her so easily. He didn't even want the shares, which made her feel a little incredulous. Lu Chun shook his head and said, "I really don't want it. You guys play." With the rich memories in the dream world and the strength he had now, he really had a lot of creative ideas to make money, but it was impossible to put them into practice one by one. In fact, the idea of bike sharing was mainly to repay the Li family represented by Li Mushi. Without the Li family, Chunfei Media could not have developed so smoothly in the capital. This big tree still needed to be relied on for a long time. What was the point of coming up with an idea? It was convenient to get some benefits for Lu Shi and Chun Fei. Li Mushi finally confirmed that Lu Chun was not joking. She sighed and said to Chun Fei, "You really found a good husband." He just said he didn't want the shares worth hundreds of millions. Chun Fei pursed her lips and chuckled, and her eyes were full of love when she looked at Lu Chun. Li Mushi suddenly felt a tinge of jealousy in her heart. She shook her head and said, "If you don't want it, then don't. I'll play with Lu Shi and Fei." By the way, she thought of something else. She grabbed Lu Chun and said, "Think of another name. We can't just call it bike sharing, right?" Lu Chun thought for a moment. He found a pen and paper and wrote the word OFO in English. OFO. Li Mushi was confused. "What does that mean?" Lu Chun said, "Look carefully." Chun Fei and Lu Shi were curious, so they craned their necks to see what Lu Chun was up to. Chun Fei took a look and said hesitantly, "Does it look like a bicycle?" The word OFO that Lu Chun had written in English was not neat. The F was stretched out and deformed. Together with the two O circles, it looked like a handlebar with wheels at the front and back. It was an abstract representation of a bicycle. "Bingo!" Lu Chun smiled and said, "But there's no reward. Let's use this as the bike sharing logo." Also, OFO can be understood as online fuse offline. He casually wrote a line of English on the paper. Online and offline fusion. Online fuse offline. Online and offline fusion. Li Mushi read it out. Her gaze became very complicated. Admiration, exclamation, realization, joy, and other emotions were mixed together. She stared at Lu Chun in a daze. "It's a pity that you don't go into business." With Lu Chun's talent in business and the power of the Li family, building an empire might not be a dream. Lu Chun smiled and said nothing. Li Mushi put aside her distracting thoughts and said decisively, "Then let's use OFO as the bike-sharing logo. I'll first register the international and domestic business creative copyrights, then register a new company. The logo has to be redesigned by the best designer." She had completely entered the mode of a strong woman, and all kinds of ideas gushed out. Tap, tap. At this time, the door of the private room was gently knocked on by someone. Li Mushi, who had been interrupted, was a little unhappy, but she still said, "Come in." The door opened, and a man with a solemn expression walked in. "Boss Lu, Boss Li, Miss Chun." Seeing the person, Li Mushi smiled. "De Yong, why are you so late? Sit down." It was Wan Yong. Wan Yong was originally the coach of the Borui Club. He was poached by Lu Chun and became the leader of the Lu family's class. He participated in the filming of a Chinese ghost story, You from the Star, and the smiling, proud wanderer. This forthright man was now Lu Chun's right-hand man. He had a good relationship with Li Mushi. At the beginning, Li Mushi had personally recruited him, But today, he seemed to have something on his mind. He forced a smile and said, "I was delayed by something." As he spoke, he looked at Lu Chun. An idea came to Lu Chen's mind, and he said, "Brother Yong, sit down and talk." Wan Yong nodded and sat down. He poured a cup of tea and drank it up. Then he said, "Boss Lu, there's several people in our team who want to leave. I'm afraid I can't stop them." His words made everyone stunned. Lu Chen frowned and asked, "Those people?" Of course, the team Wan Yong was talking about was the Lu family's class. In the process of shooting the smiling, proud wanderer, the Lu family's class made great efforts. It could be said that without this excellent action team, it would be impossible to shoot the martial arts blockbuster that was praised by people today. And Lu Chun had invested a lot of money and effort in the Lu family's class. Unexpectedly, when the box office of the smiling, proud wanderer was a big hit, there was actually someone who wanted to leave. Xiao Gao, De Tu, Wang Kaijin. Wan Yong said the names of 6 or 7 people in one breath and said bitterly, "What do we do to them? We have a lot of salary, bonus, welfare, insurance, and housing, and the company has spent so much money to train them." The honest man's face turned red. Obviously, he was very angry. He felt that he was responsible for such a thing. There was no sign before, and he was caught unprepared. He felt that he was very sorry for Lu Chun. Li Mushi also flew into a rage. "There's a contract, right? Then let's go to court directly. I will drive them out of the capital." Lu Chun shook his head and said, "Driving them out of the capital can't solve the fundamental problem." He was very calm. He knew that this kind of thing would happen sooner or later. Those competitors were not fools. The box office of the smiling, proud wanderer was about to exceed 1 billion, and they had already analyzed it thoroughly. The contribution of the Lu family's class couldn't be hidden at all. It was normal for them to be poached. In fact, Lu Chun had already prepared for this. But it was very difficult to control people's hearts. No matter how strict the contract was, it couldn't resist the temptation of interests, and it couldn't block all the loopholes. Fortunately, only one important member was poached. It didn't affect much even if the others left. As long as the core was still there, the name of the Lu family's class wouldn't fall. Chapter 853. On the 11th of October, the first song of the smiling, the proud wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua, broke 1 billion in box office after 11 days of screening. Xinfei Media held a grand celebration party for this. The domestic wuxia film was not expected to do well, but under the strong competition from Hollywood blockbusters, the box office kept rising and became one of the most successful domestic films of the year, shocking the industry as expected. What was most unbelievable to the people in the circle was that the box office of the smiling, the proud martial world had not been tampered with. It had not bought the box office, and there was no bad record of stealing the box office. It had stood upright and made money. Not only that, when the box office broke 1 billion, the Proud Wanderer's box office sales also broke 150 million, creating a new record for the box office sales of a domestic film. It was reported by many important domestic media, gaining both fame and fortune. What made people jealous was that the first song was already selling so well. The second and third part of the smiling, proud martial world would definitely not be bad, because the audience base was already solid. As long as the quality didn't drop, then it would bring Xinfei Media incomparably rich profits. In addition, Xinfei Media and Happy Entertainment announced that the smiling, the Proud Wanderer would be in open beta on January 1st, 2019. At that time, all fans of the book and the movie could choose their favorite sect and enter the virtual world to explore. With the popularity of the movie, Happy Entertainment released the first trailer of The Proud Wanderer on Wave's blog, and the number of views reached 20 million on the same day. Compared to movies, online games were undoubtedly more profitable. Everyone realized that a super IP had been formed, and it was showing its terrifying power. With the popularity of The Proud Wanderer, a large number of related articles and posts appeared on the internet, newspapers, and magazines. There were even scholars who specifically discussed that the Proud Wanderer's success would set off a wave of wuxia craze in China. Many film companies and entertainment media companies in the industry focused their attention on this issue. Because of the failure of Young Wanderer and the other wuxia blockbusters, it was a sharp contrast to the Proud Wanderer. Many professionals began to dig deeper, trying to figure out the secret behind the latter's success. Most people agreed that the smiling, proud wanderer had created a new type of movie. The most distinctive feature of the movie was the fighting scenes that were so exquisite and dazzling that they were so cool. Different from the simple and violent Hollywood action blockbusters, and different from the stacked special effects of domestic fantasy films, the Proud Wanderer was unique and attracted the hearts of countless audiences. Most of the audience's comments on the smiling, Proud Wanderer was that it was wonderful and entertaining. The good reputation it brought drove the box office of the smiling, Proud Wanderer to new heights. And those who thought they had seen through the secret of the success of the smiling, Proud Wanderer launched a large-scale poaching operation on the action team owned by Chunfei Media, namely the Liu family squad. In modern society, there were very few secrets that could be hidden from everyone. A film crew could have up to hundreds of people, and the situation was complicated. The actions and routines involved in the filming of the smiling, Proud Wanderer could not be kept a secret. Therefore, in the eyes of these people, as long as they poached a few members of the Liu family squad to join them, they would be able to shoot a wuxia blockbuster like the smiling, the Proud Wanderer, and share the cake that had just been made. All of a sudden, even the film crew in Ningxian Film and Television City was greatly affected. More than a dozen members of the Liu family squad resigned, and some even left without saying goodbye. Most of them were poached by other film companies at high prices, and some planned to start their own companies. In this regard, Chunfei Media did not fly into a rage, nor did they take any extreme measures. They did not make things difficult for those who wanted to leave. As long as they paid the compensation according to the contract, they could regain their freedom. Everyone parted on good terms. And for those who continued to stay, the company offered a new contract with more generous benefits. Several important core members, such as Wang Yong, were given extra rewards in terms of dividends. When the Liu family squad was first established, there were only a dozen members, and then it expanded to 20 or 30. This group of people became the core of the action team when they were shooting a Chinese ghost story. By the time the smiling, the Proud Wanderer was filmed, the number of members of the Liu family squad had soared to as many as 50 or 60, and a large number of new blood had been added through talent shows, so they would not be hurt by the departure of more than a dozen people. Most of the core members stayed because their treatment was not bad, and they could be said to have been brought up by Liu Chun, so they had a high sense of identity with Liu Chun. Therefore, even if the people of the headhunting company talked a lot, few of them were tempted. Through the efforts of Chunfei Media, the poaching storm was quickly calmed down. Several film production companies began to set up their own action team when they failed to poach people. They copied the routine of the Liu family squad, selected talents from local martial arts schools or sports schools for training, and prepared to copy this set of model into new films and TV series. Even if they could not be as glorious as Chunfei Media, it was good enough to get a share of the pie. Therefore, in the foreseeable future, this Jianghu war would continue and become more and more intense. For Liu Chun, who caused this craze, it was not a bad thing. Only with competition could there be progress, and it was no longer interesting for Chunfei Media to be the only one in the Jianghu war. On October 15th, the Shanghai International Film Festival officially began, and the smiling, the Proud Wanderer entered as an exhibitor, seeking to sell the international copyright. As of the 20th, the smiling, the Proud Wanderer's box office exceeded $1.5 billion, and it became one of the most popular domestic films in the Shanghai International Film Festival. The copyright was sold to 37 countries in Southeast Asia and Europe and the United States, including the United States, Japan, Korea, Australia, France, Germany, and other important film market countries. The total transaction reached $25 million, and it became the big winner of the Shanghai International Film Festival and also made hundreds of millions of pure profit for Chunfei Media. Some people in the industry estimated that the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, the Wuxia IP, including 3 movies, copyright adaptation, copyright sale, brand authorization, peripheral sales, and so on, could at least bring more than 2 billion profits to Chunfei Media. With only the IP of the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, Chunfei Media already had the foundation to be listed in the domestic market. Once it was successfully listed, both Lu Chun and Chun Feier would have a new breakthrough. Chapter 854. October 20th, Beijing Workers' Stadium. This large sports venue, which can accommodate 70,000 spectators, was full of seats. Countless people waved light sticks or held up support cards high, cheering for their favorite idols. The first stop of the Little Tiger Group's Hohus Might national tour was held in the Workers' Stadium. As a new generation of domestic idol groups, the Little Tiger Group made their debut in the Singing China talent show in 2016. That year, they won the Global Chinese Original Gold Songs List Best New Group of the Year. In just 2 years, they have become the most popular boy group in China. In 2 years, 2 albums have been extremely popular. The members of the Little Tiger Group are Little Handsome Tiger Zhang Juanji, Little Flying Tiger Hu Yiran, and Little Cute Tiger Yuyang. The 3 of them are so popular that they even overshadow M&S and have become the idols of countless young boys and girls. At the beginning of the establishment of the Little Tiger Group, there was a special team to serve them and build them into an entertainment brand. Names such as Little Tiger Group, Little Handsome Tiger, Little Flying Tiger, Little Cute Tiger, and so on were all registered, and a professional design company was commissioned to design a cartoon logo. With the rapid popularity of the Little Tiger Group in China, its brand has been continuously licensed out, including clothing, sports goods, stationery, toys, electronic products, and so on. The income in this area alone has made a lot of money, making the eyes of the peers in the circle bleed with envy. In the past 2 years, there have been a lot of boy groups imitating the trend, such as Little Dragon Group and Little Wolf Group have sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, but none of the teams have reached even half of the height of the Little Tiger Group. Instead, they have been ridiculed as knockoffs and have not been recognized by fans. In fact, everyone is very clear about the reason. The first and most important reason is that there is a giant standing behind the Little Tiger Group. It is precisely because of his support that the Little Tiger Group has become what it is today. In today's era, the entertainment industry was extremely developed and people's horizons were very broad. It wasn't as simple as putting together a few handsome men and beautiful women to sing and dance on the stage, and then creating a lot of hype to attract a large number of fans. What can really attract fans is to rely on works. Without excellent works and familiar songs, who will remember a team with serious homogeneity? The 2 best-selling albums of the Little Tigers were the reason why so many people came to the Workers' Stadium to support them tonight. Many fans, accompanied by their parents, came to Beijing from other places to watch the performance. Butterflies fly, just like children running in the wind. I feel like the rainbow of youth is farther than the sea and higher than the sky. Butterflies fly to the castle of the future, open the skylight of dreams, let them grow faster and better. Butterfly flight. After the song Butterfly Flies was sung, there was a tsunami of shouts from the audience, and the atmosphere reached the climax since the beginning of the performance. This song was the masterpiece of the Little Tigers. Once it was released, it won the love of countless boys and girls, and it could often be heard in primary and secondary schools. When the Little Tiger Regiment sang this song in the Workers' Stadium, many people sang along with them, reminiscing the past together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The 3 members of the Little Tigers bowed in gratitude. They were panting, and their foreheads were covered in sweat, but their eyes were shining with joy and passion. For tonight's concert, they had prepared for as long as half a year, and now they had finally reaped the sweet fruits. Standing up, wiping his sweat, Zhang Juanji said to the thousands of fans, "Next, The audience quickly quieted down, and only a few fans were still desperately shouting his name. Among the three members of the Little Tigers, Zhang Juanji, as the leader, was undoubtedly the most popular. His Waves blog followers were equivalent to Hu Yiran and Yu Yang's combined. Zhang Juanji continued, "Next, let us welcome tonight's most important guest. He is our most respected teacher, and he is also Lu Chun." Before Zhang Juanji could say the answer, the tens of thousands of people in the audience had already shouted the answer for him. There was no fan present who did not know the name of the giant behind the Little Tigers, and that was Lu Chun. The Little Tiger Group itself came from an idea of Lu Chun. He named the Little Tiger Group and personally wrote the title song of the album for the Little Tiger Group. Several of the Little Tiger Group's most famous works were all written by him. Even the company that the Little Tigers belonged to had shares in Lu Chun. It was no exaggeration to say that without Lu Chun, the Little Tigers would not have appeared. Even if they did appear, they would not have the popularity and influence they had today. Tonight, Lu Chun would personally attend the Little Tigers concert as the mystery guest. It was a pleasant surprise, but also completely expected because no other celebrity in the industry was more suitable than him. Lu Chun, Lu Chun, Lu Chun. Amidst the cheers of the audience, Lu Chun appeared on the big stage in casual clothes, standing together with the three members of the Little Tigers under the spotlight. At this moment, he had become the real protagonist, and the three popular teenagers had become a foil. No one thought or felt that there was anything wrong with this scene. "Thank you." Lu Chun smiled and said, "Hearing your voices makes me feel a lot younger." The cheers became even louder. Lu Chun smiled and waited for the cheers to die down, then continued, "Tonight, I will use a new song, to accompany everyone through our time together. I hope you will like it. The name of this song is called The Rainy Season When I Was 17. If there are no accidents, this song will also be the title song of the Little Tigers' new album." Wow! This time, the stadium was in an uproar. What an unexpected surprise. The accompanying music started, and the three members of the Little Tigers retreated to the chorus, giving the glorious stage to the person who changed their lives. When I was a child, there were many jasmine flowers in front of the door, emitting a faint fragrance. When I gradually grew up, those jasmine flowers in front of the door have slowly withered, no longer sprouting. What kind of mood, what kind of age, what kind of joy, what kind of crying? The noise, the laughter, the cheers, and the applause dissipated like dust. Only Lu Chen's clear, clean, and nostalgic song echoed in the stadium, tugging at the hearts of the boys and girls, causing a silent resonance. Note: The Rainy Season When I Was 17, lyricist/composer, Pan Fong Lai. Chapter 855. This song, The Rainy Season When I Was 17, was specially written by Lu Chun for the Little Tigers' first concert tonight. This song was full of youthful energy, but it also contained memories of his youth. The lyrics were simple, and the beautiful melody contained a touch of sadness, as well as the sour and bitter feelings of first love. The age of 17 or 18 was the best period of life. It was the time when one had just bid farewell to childishness and innocence, and was full of longing for the future. Hazy feelings began to sprout. Perhaps it was childish, perhaps it was hot-blooded, or perhaps it did not know what true love was. But when everyone recalled this period of time, most people would smile from the bottom of their hearts. Singing this song, Lu Chun also recalled his 17 years old. At that time, he had already tasted the taste of his first love. He thought that this feeling would last forever, but it turned into a bubble amidst the quarrel. Now that he recalled it, there was regret and sadness, and these regrets and sadness were all integrated into the song. The Rainy Season When I Was 17, we have the same expectations, and we used to hug each other tightly. The Rainy Season When I Was 17, recalling bits and pieces of my childhood, but I found that I was getting closer to maturity. When the same melody sounded again, the harmony of the three members of the Little Tiger Group became the main voice, and the spotlight that fell on Lu Chun shifted to them. This was an obvious metaphor, representing the inheritance of new and old. Of course, Lu Chun was definitely not the old, but he was the recognized mentor of the Little Tigers. This song, The Rainy Season When I Was 17, was first sung by Lu Chun, but in the end, it was given to the Little Tigers. After the song was finished, the audience burst into thunderous applause. Countless fans jumped up in excitement, waved the glow sticks in their hands, and shouted at the top of their lungs, calling the names of Lu Chun and the 3 members of the Little Tigers. "Thank you." Lu Chun bowed to the audience to express his gratitude, and then prepared to leave the stage. But at this time, Zhang Juanji suddenly rushed over, opened his arms, and hugged Lu Chun tightly. Lu Chun was stunned for a moment before he smiled and patted him on the shoulder. In the end, Hu Yi ran and Yu Yang also rushed over. The 3 of them surrounded Lu Chun. This was not the script of tonight's concert, but their admiration and worship for Lu Chun from the bottom of their hearts, as well as deep gratitude. Without Lu Chun, there would be no Tiger Cubs. Without Lu Chun, they would not have such a brilliant life. That was why the 3 of them made such a move. Although it was a little impulsive, it was exactly the feelings that teenagers should have. Encore! Encore! The audience quickly came to their senses and shouted the slogan of singing one more song in unison. In an instant, the atmosphere of the audience was pushed to the peak, turning the workers' stadium into a sea of noise. As the saying goes, it's hard to refuse such hospitality. Lu Chun can't disappoint the tens of thousands of audience at the scene, so he teamed up with the Little Tiger Regiment again and sang the song, "The Stars Are Still Bright," together. This was a new single released by the Little Tigers, also written by Lu Chun. When the song "The Stars Are Still Shining," the sincerity is still the same. Only with tears and sweat can we wash away the sorrow and joy of separation. Was heard, the audience immediately entered into chorus mode. Even though many years had passed, and the youthful boys and girls were now middle-aged and elderly, and their sideburns were tinged with silver frost, they still firmly remembered the scene at the Beijing Workers' Stadium tonight, even though the audience was still shouting encore. However, Lu Chun still chose to leave and gave the stage to the Tiger Cubs, because the latter were the real stars of the night. "Lu Chun, thank you." As soon as he returned backstage, Sister Lee, who had been waiting there for a long time, gave Lu Chun a strong hug. Lu Chun smiled and said, "Sister Lee, there's no need to be so polite with me." Sister Lee was the one who invited Lu Chun to the Tiger Cubs concert tonight. Sister Lee was one of Chun Fei, Er's best friends, and also his friend. In addition to their personal friendship, Sister Lee was also the manager of the Chun Fei Charity Fund. It was because of her conscientious work that the Chun Fei Charity Fund developed smoothly, so that the donated money could really be used for those who needed help. Currently, in the country, the Chun Fei Charity Fund's reputation had always been maintained at the top level, which was inseparable from Sister Lee's serious and hard work. Moreover, she only received a nominal salary from the fund. Sister Lee wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and said, "Then I won't say anything more. I'll send you back." Lu Chun shook his head. "Don't bother. I can go back myself." He knew very well how much effort Sister Lee had put in for her only son, and how much hope she had put into him. Today, seeing Zhang Juanji standing confidently on the stage and singing loudly, he believed that it was a great satisfaction and happiness for her. How could Lu Chun let her send him back at this time? After saying goodbye to Sister Lee, Lu Chun left the workers' sports complex and returned to his home in Purple Qingyuan. "You're back so soon?" Hearing the door open, Chan Fei popped his head out of the study and asked in surprise, "The Tiger Cubs concert is over?" Lu Chun took off his coat and answered, "Not yet. I came back early after I finished singing, so that I wouldn't be surrounded when I left the venue." Chun Fei said with a smile, "I saw your singing video on the internet. Although the Tiger Cubs' first concert was not broadcast live, Almost all the tens of thousands of audience members had mobile phones, so it was normal for them to record a few videos and upload them to the internet. Lu Chun smiled. Those fans are very enthusiastic. Chun Fei rolled her eyes at him and said, "You still have the nerve to say that? Do you know that your blog is about to be blown up by people now?" "What?" Lu Chun couldn't help but be taken aback. "What happened? Did something big happen recently?" "Nothing much, except that the box office of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer exceeded 1.5 billion. But that was not enough to make the blog explode, was it? You will know after reading it." But the result made Lu Chun speechless. His blog was exploding because he was the guest of the Tiger Cubs concert that night, because countless fans were very angry about it. Even Lu Chin's students had held a concert, but he had not held a concert so far, nor had he revealed any information about it. It seemed that he had given up his singing career. Therefore, the resentment of the fans erupted, and they all left messages on his blog. Some complained, and some attacked. Thinking about it, it was time to give them an explanation. Chapter 856. In the 4 years since Lu Chin's debut, he has gone from an unknown part-time bar singer to the most popular film, television, and singing star in the country. The speed of his rise is astonishing. Whether it is music, TV series, or movies, he has achieved a series of dazzling results. He has released 2 record-breaking albums and filmed 3 record-breaking TV series. His first movie earned a box office of 1 billion. And his second movie created a new genre of domestic movies. The box office has exceeded 1.5 billion before it was released. Lu Chin's career development trajectory is very clear. From a singer to a TV series and a movie actor, and now he has even begun to direct his own works. He has climbed to the peak of life step by step. Lu Chin's fans are increasing. Among them, a group of hardcore fans have been following him since his debut and have been giving him full support. Most of these hardcore fans are Lu Chin's fans. Lu Chin's fans are very pure. Their love for Lu Chin stems from Lu Chin's original works one after another. They like Lu Chin's folk songs, Lu Chin's light rock, and Lu Chin's love songs. But these hardcore fans also have complaints about Lu Chin. That is, Lu Chin has not held his own concert so far. They always feel that there is a great flaw in the perfection. It is easy to say that a singer hold a concert, but it is not easy either. Not everyone is qualified to hold a real concert. At least, one needs to have their own fan team and their own works. Lu Chin has participated in several concerts, but either as a guest or as a platter. His live performance of 1 or 2 songs on a big stage obviously can't satisfy his fans. With his popularity and works, it is really a bit incredible that he has not held a concert in 4 years. As a result, many fans left messages on Lu Chin's blog, urging Lu Chin to hold a concert. This kind of inquiry began as early as a few years ago, and then there are more and more. Several fans even persisted in asking questions day after day. As long as Lu Chin's blog was updated, there would always be comments from them. When Lu Chin was shooting a movie, he asked when he was going to hold a concert. When Lu Chin was participating in an endorsement event, he asked when he was going to hold a concert. When Lu Chin and Chin Fei were showing off their love, he asked when they were going to hold a concert. Lu Chin had seen these comments on his blog more than once. He also felt very ashamed. It wasn't that he didn't want to hold a concert, but his work schedule had been too full these past few years. Filming TV series and movies took up too much of his time. It was difficult to squeeze out time to hold a concert. Most importantly, he did not want to hold his first concert casually, because music occupied a very special place in his life. He wanted to be worthy of his fans who supported him, and even more so, he wanted to be worthy of himself. In the end, it had been delayed again and again, and now it had finally been delayed. Lu Chin knew that it was time to give his fans an explanation, and now the time was ripe to announce it. Sitting in front of the computer and quietly thinking for a few minutes, Lu Chin opened the blog article editing software and typed out an official statement. During this period, he repeatedly revised it several times and even called Lu Shi to discuss it. At 10:27 p.m. on October 20th, Lu Chun updated his blog. As soon as this blog post of more than 500 words was published, it immediately attracted the attention of countless fans. The number of clicks and reposts in a short period of time almost set a new record for Wave's blog. In this blog post, Lu Chun first thanked all his fans for their support and love for him over the past 4 years. Then, in response to the complaints of his fans, he said that his first solo concert would be held on February 14, 2019, and at the same time, he would conduct a national tour. At present, it was tentatively scheduled in 7 major cities: Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, Shenzhen, Shenzhen, Shancheng, and Hong Kong. Later, it would be adjusted according to the actual situation. But what was certain was that this time, the tickets would not be canceled, and Chun Fei Media would work with a number of partners to do the best in this national tour as a thank you and feedback to his fans for their consistent support. At the same time, Lu Chun's solo third album would also be officially released on January 1st, 2019. 2 heavy news smashed down in a row and immediately caused a huge wave in the fan circle. This blog post was forwarded to forums, Tieba, QQ groups, and WeChat moments in a very short period of time. The blog comment area once again exploded, and a large number of messages were refreshed every second. Tears are streaming down my face. I've waited for this day. What that there's still 4 months. I just want to know when the tickets will be pre-sold. It's simply unreasonable. Why is there no Jinling? The people of Shenzhen express strong protest. The people of Chuncheon protest together. The people of Haijiao are speechless. Lu Chun's blog post was to calm the resentment of his fans, but it attracted more complaints. But this was not a bad thing. After all, everyone hoped that his concert could be held at their doorstep. To be continued, carrot. Of course, everyone also knew that it was very unrealistic. In fact, now that Lu Chun had confirmed the time for the concert, it was already a great surprise, especially for Lu Chun's fans. Their long-awaited wish was finally satisfied. The only worry was that they might not be able to buy the concert tickets at that time. It was no exaggeration to say that if the tickets for Lu Chun's concert could be pre-sold now, it would be believed that they would be sold out in a few minutes, and there would be no need to worry about sales at all. Because Lu Chun's terrifying popularity was not created by grinding, but by the fans who had been waiting for too long. Once the expectations exploded, it would inevitably produce amazing power. In just a short span of 2 hours, the term Lu Chun's concert was pushed to the top of the hot topics on the homepage of Waves' blog. The number of forwards easily exceeded the 1 million mark, and many people in the industry and celebrities, regardless of whether they knew each other or not, also forwarded it and sent their blessings. Tan Hong, congratulations, leave me 3 tickets. Liao Jia, I want to be the mystery guest, that's for sure. Shi Feng, finally, this day has come. Although there are still a few months, I'm looking forward to it. Mu Xiaochu, congratulations, brother Lu Chun, don't forget to leave me a ticket. Lin Jijia, even the Little Tigers, who had just finished their concert, were the first to forward the blog, and Lu Chun. Teacher Lu Chun, do you need people to do chores for your concert? Everyone's attention was suddenly focused on the problem of the tickets. Although it was just an announcement and the specific location and venue had not been confirmed, it was completely foreseeable that the tickets would be in high demand. The official V of Chun Fei Media took over this big problem and said that once the ticket pre-sale was opened, he would inform everyone as soon as possible. In addition, there would be a ticket lottery on the blog. As a result, the number of fans of the official V of Chun Fei Media suddenly skyrocketed. Chapter 857. In the circle, when Lu Chun would hold a concert, was a very interesting topic. Everyone knew that he was definitely going to hold a concert, but there was no movement for a long time. He was so happy shooting TV shows and movies that it inevitably made people wonder if he had forgotten this very important thing for a singer, and if he had completely abandoned his identity as a singer and turned to film and television. Many people even felt very regretful, because in the years since Liu Chen's debut, he has become a pillar of the domestic pop music world and brought a new trend of pop music. How lonely the pop music world would be without Liu Chen. And it turned out that Liu Chen had not forgotten that he owed all his loyal fans a concert. He still loved the music career and would release his third album. The new album that countless fans have been looking forward to for a long time. A new album and the first national tour. Did it mean that Liu Chen would fully return to the pop music world? Many people inside and outside the circle were eager to know the answer. The phones of Liu Shi and Liu Chen's assistant were blown up by media reporters, but they couldn't interview Liu Chen at all because Liu Chen had gone abroad. After 7 hours and 15 minutes of flight, Flight K-5789 from Beijing landed steadily on the runway of Malé International Airport in the Maldives. The full name of the Maldives was the Republic of the Maldives. It was located in South Asia, an island country in the Indian Ocean and the world's largest coral island country. It was composed of more than 1,200 small coral islands, 202 of which were inhabited. From a bird's-eye view, it looked like a string of pearls scattered in the Indian Ocean. With a total area of 300 square kilometers, it was the smallest country in Asia. The Maldives was also a paradise for tourists and vacationers. The day after attending the Little Tigers concert in Beijing, Liu Chen left Beijing with Chen Fei-er and flew to the Maldives. The two would spend a sweet 7-day vacation in this beautiful island country. This vacation was not a spur-of-the-moment idea. It had been arranged a long time ago. From next month onwards, the two of them would be busy with work again. They would not have any free time until next June. The other two movies of the smiling, proud wanderer had to be finished. Chen Fei-er was going to hold a concert. Now, Liu Chen was going to hold a concert and release a new album. In addition, there were all kinds of endorsements and invitations to programs. Even during the Chinese New Year, she couldn't rest. Therefore, before his busy work started, he wanted to go out and have some fun. Malé was the capital of the Maldives, with an area of only 5 square kilometers, which was even smaller than some universities in the country. The population of 150,000 accounted for more than 40% of the country's population. Due to its small size, Malé International Airport was not on the main island, but on Coral Lake Island not far away. When they got off the plane, they had already been arranged to receive them. Then, the two of them boarded a beautiful white seaplane and flew to their real destination. After a very short flight, a unique island appeared in his line of sight. Liu Chen said to Chen Fei-er, "This is Paradise Island. Let's go to the island in 2 days." Looking down at this pearl on the Indian Ocean from the air, it was completely different from what he saw in the movies. The natural beauty and magnificence were really dazzling. Paradise Island was one of the most famous tourist islands in the Maldives. There were many holiday villas on the island, and all kinds of entertainment facilities were very complete. It attracted a lot of tourists every year. Chen Fei-er raised her camera and took a few pictures of Paradise Island. This time, when she came to the Maldives for vacation, she specially bought the latest DSLR camera and prepared to record all the beautiful scenery of the island. Just like Liu Chen, Chen Fei-er was also in the Maldives for the first time. However, their destination today was not Paradise Island. The plane turned to the southwest and continued flying for a while. Another small island covered with coconut trees and surrounded by white beaches appeared. The seaplane did not land immediately. Instead, it circled around the island twice. Chen Fei-er had a surprising discovery. This island looks like a heart. It's so special. Liu Chen smiled. "Do you like it?" "Yes." Chen Fei-er pressed the shutter of the camera and took dozens of pictures. She nodded her head and said with satisfaction, "It's so beautiful." The plane slowly landed on the pier of the island. After getting off the seaplane, there was an open beach in front of them. The white sand, the coconut trees, and the blue sea formed a picture that could be used as a computer wallpaper. A small yacht was docked on both sides of the pier. The distance between Malé Airport and Paradise Island was only 10 kilometers, and this small island was only a few kilometers away from Paradise Island. They were very close to each other across the sea. A trail extended from the pier to the Manor Villa, in the coconut forest. Other than the service staff who came to greet them, there were no other tourists. Chun Feier asked curiously, "Did you rent this island? What's its name?" Lu Chan gently pulled her into his arms and said, "I bought it. Its name is Angel." Chun Feier was completely dumbfounded. This trip to the Maldives was arranged by Lu Chun. She only knew that they were here for a vacation, but she never dreamed that Lu Chun actually bought an island. You're not kidding, right? Lu Chun kissed her on the cheek and smiled. "Of course not. I bought it for you. It's a gift for our 3rd anniversary." Chun Feier's eyes instantly turned red. No woman could refuse such a gift of love. She was no exception. She didn't care that there were other people beside them. She hugged Lu Chun and kissed him passionately. She thought it was just a relaxing vacation, but it turned out to be a great surprise. Under the sea breeze, the two kissed for a long time before they reluctantly separated. Chun Feier's pretty face was flushed, and her eyes were so charming that water was about to drip out. Lu Chun took her hand and walked all the way to the villa. At the same time, he introduced the origin of the island to her. This Angel Island was not formed naturally. It was originally a very small island reef. Later, it was filled and expanded into the current scale pattern. It had an area of about 12 acres with hundreds of meters of beach around the island, large vacation villas, cruise ship docks, and so on. It was also equipped with power generation and seawater desalination systems. Its original owner was a French businessman. He sold it because of the need for business funds. Lu Chun only learned about such an island for sale when he was chatting with Limu Bai. The latter had traveled around the world in recent years and had come to the Maldives more than once. Lu Chun also spent $27 million to buy this island through him. The price was not cheap, and the future maintenance was also very high, but it was nothing for Lu Chun. The hard-earned money naturally had to be spent, as long as the person he loved liked it. Chapter 858. Hand in hand, Lu Chun and Chun Feier walked on the path paved with colorful pebbles. They walked past the tropical flower garden and came to the main building of the manor. This man-made island didn't have a long history, but the previous owner undoubtedly spent a lot of effort to transform it. It was surrounded by coconut trees, and although the white European-style villa didn't have the heaviness of 100 years of accumulation, it still didn't lose its grand layout, and even more so had a modern and fashionable style. There was a gardener trimming the lawn in the garden. When he saw the two of them, he saluted respectfully. Angel Island was very small. Although it was very close to Paradise Island, daily maintenance was essential. There were more than a dozen people in charge of maintenance, such as chefs, gardeners, repairmen, and handymen. Most of them were natives of the Maldives, and they were managed by an English butler. When Lu Chun bought Angel Island, he also took in these maintenance and management personnel. Basically, they could speak English, so simple communication was not a problem. Far away from the mainland, and without the harassment of tourists, this island in the depths of the ocean was like a paradise. Especially for celebrities like Lu Chun and Chun Feier, it could be called a paradise of freedom. Of course, it was not completely free of harassment. For example, at this moment, a certain someone was standing at the entrance of the villa, wearing a checkered shirt, beach shorts, and had a beautiful young woman in his arms, grinning mischievously. "Brother Chun, you are finally here," he shouted loudly, let go of the beautiful woman, and rushed over in an exaggerated tone. "Feier, long time no see. You are getting more and more beautiful. Hug me." This guy actually opened his arms and hugged Chun Feier, who had a surprised look on her face. Bang! Lu Chun was quick-witted. He slapped the other party on the chest and pushed him away. "Get lost." The guy was Limu Bai. He contacted the French businessman and bought Angel Island. Then, this guy came here to enjoy himself in the name of inspecting the goods. Of course, Lu Chun did not have any objections. After he bought the island, he would not only use it as a vacation for himself and Chun Feier. In the future, his family and friends could come over to play. Anyway, The villa was big enough to accommodate dozens of people. I have internal injuries. Li Mubai took 2 steps back and covered his chest with a bitter expression on his face. Chingu, I can't believe you would hit your own brother so hard for her. Lu Chun wanted to kick him again. You read too many novels. Li Mubai chuckled and said to Chun Feier, who was covering her mouth to take credit. Sister-in-law, are you happy with the gift Chingu gave you? Are you satisfied? I've contributed a lot to this. Chen Fei smiled and said, Yes, I'm very happy and satisfied. Thank you. On the way here, Lu Chen told her that without Li Mubai's help, they could still buy it, but it would be more troublesome, and the price would be more than $27 million. Li Mubai represented the Li family. The Li family also had power and connections overseas, which was very useful in such a transaction. We are family, don't be so polite. Li Mubai reached out and pulled the woman over, saying, Sister-in-law, this is Xiaowei. She just graduated from college this year and wants to develop in the film and television industry. Please take care of her in the future. The woman was in her early 20s. She was petite and beautiful, big eyes and an oval face. When she saw Lu Chun and Chun Feier, she was surprised and a little scared. Sister-in-law, nice to meet you, sister-in-law. My name is Zhang Xiaowei. Please take care of me. The couple Lu Chun and Chun Feier were too famous. For people like Zhang Xiaowei, who intended to work in the entertainment industry, they were an existence that needed to be worshipped. Now that she had met them in person through Li Mubai's introduction, and she could even be taken care of, her mood could be imagined. Just call me Sister Feier. Chun Feier smiled gently and asked Li Mubai curiously, Since you want to enter the film and television industry, why did you look for me instead of your Chungu? He is much more capable than me now. Chun Feier was not being modest. What he said was completely true. In today's domestic film and television industry, Lu Chun had set up a very eye-catching flag and had become the object of countless people's admiration. As long as he made a move, it would be a simple thing to make Zhang Xiaowei famous. Li Mubai coughed awkwardly and said, I'm afraid that my sister, I'm going to Paradise Island with Xiaowei. I won't disturb Chingu and sister-in-law anymore. Talk to you later. After that, he hurriedly pulled Zhang Xiaowei away and took a speedboat to the nearby Paradise Island. Paradise Island was a tourist attraction. There were many tourists all year round. It was very close to Angel Island. If one felt lonely living here, they could go there to play. Not only there were luxury hotels, shopping malls, water parks, casinos, bars, and other recreational places. There were many fun places there. Lu Chun looked at Li Mubai's figure as he left, and he couldn't help but shake his head. This guy. Chun Feier hesitated for a moment, but he still asked, he changed his girlfriend again? Lu Chun nodded. The last time he and Chun Feier saw Li Mubai, it was not Zhang Xiaowei beside this guy, but another beautiful girl. Speaking of which, when Lu Chun first met Li Mubai, the other party was a relatively pure second generation. Lu Chun also wrote a poem for him to help him chase his girlfriend. He did chase her, but later the two separated again. Li Mubai even suffered from emotional pain because of this, and his life became a lot more dissolute. He changed several girlfriends, but they were basically just for fun. Zhang Xiaowei was the same. Li Mushi was half angry about this, but there was nothing he could do. Putting aside his identity as a child of the Li family, Li Mubai had shares in the crowdfunding website. After it was listed on NASDAQ, the value was enough for him to eat, drink, and play for a lifetime. Forget about him. Lu Chun reached out and put his arm around Chun Feier's waist and said, You must be tired after flying for so long, right? Let's go rest first, and then take a good look at this island that belongs to you. Chun Feier glanced at him coquettishly, and her eyes were full of endless amorous feelings. The next night, Chun Feier's blog was updated, and in the new blog post, several photos of her and Lu Chun walking hand in hand on the beach were released. The accompanying text was very simple, just 4 words, thousands of miles away. Although they were all selfies, there was not much photography skill to speak of, and there was no PS modification. However, the background was matched with the beautiful scenery of Angel Island, so each photo was very colorful, and at the same time, it was a fierce show of love. Immediately, fans left a comment, showing off-dog food thousands of miles away. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.